Welcome to another episode of Journey to the Pit. I'm Jim Collins, and I'll be your host this evening alongside my awesome co-host, Peter Casada. We have an extremely awesome guest coming tonight. He has a nickname that y'all guys many know him by, but we are going to introduce him as Tranquilino Gomez tonight. So, Peter, go ahead and make the introduction in Spanish so we can get this party started.
Sí, gracias a todos por acompañarnos aquí con el señor Jim Collins en su programa de Journey to the Pit. Estamos aquí con una leyenda, un gran gallero, el señor Tranquilino Gomez, que muchos conocemos y le podemos apodar el domador de gallos, se puede decir, ¿no? Señor Tranquilino, estamos muy contentos de estar aquí con el señor Jim Collins, aquí en Journey to the Pit. Gracias por estar aquí con nosotros.
Alrighty, so I would like to welcome Tranquilino Gomez to the show, and I would like to thank him for coming on, accepting our invitation and coming on to the show. We're very honored, and we look forward to our lesson today.
Dice que estamos muy contentos, señor Tranquilino, de que nos acompañe aquí. Gracias por estar aquí con nosotros y estar dispuesto a compartir su experiencia y su historia.
Sí, mira, buenas tardes. Para mí es un gusto, es un honor, es un privilegio, que me hayan tomado en cuenta, señor Jim, Peter. Estoy muy contento y estoy muy emocionado, ¿no? De poder compartir algo con la gente del gallo, la gente de la pluma. Muchas gracias.
Guys, he says he's honored to be here. He wants to thank Jim and myself for having him here. He says that he's very excited to share his passion with other folks that share the same passion with him, as well as people that are in the pretty new to the path and want to learn about our feathered warriors.
All right. Thank you. So before we get started, guys, we always got to say our disclaimer. All the information discussed in this interview is for historical, educational, and entertainment purposes only. None of this information is intended for any illegal purposes. All opinions are respected of the individual and all rights are reserved. Peter?
Sí, gracias a todos por estar aquí. Les recordamos que estos videos son educativos solamente, compartiendo historias y para entretenimiento. No estamos tratando de hacer algo ilegal, hablar de cosas ilegales, obviamente. Y todas las opiniones se respetan de cada individuo. Y adelante con la entrevista a todos.
Alrighty, guys. So, Peter, what I would like to do is let's get started off with Mr. Tranquilino's a little bit of his background for the few individuals out there who do not know him and not know his history. So, if he can start us off with just telling us a little bit about his background.
Sí, señor Tranquilino, Jim le dice que quisiera empezar para que nos comparte un poquito de su historia, cuáles fueron sus principios en el gallo, a ver si nos puede orientar un poquito y darnos un poquito de lo que es cómo empezó Tranquilino y Quinta Gomari.
Sí, mira, buenas noches. Desde muy chiquito, desde que yo me acuerdo, siempre me han gustado los gallos. Mi papá tenía gallos, él jugaba ahí por Guadalajara, en Atotonilco, Alto Jalisco, donde soy originario. Desde muy chico me gustaban mucho los gallos, nomás yo platicaba mucho con ellos y me decían que si yo estaba, decía mi papá, oye, este muchacho está loco, nomás se la pasa platicando con los gallos. Y siempre desde muy pequeño me gustó el ámbito del gallo, nomás nunca pensé llegar hasta donde estamos ahorita.
He says that ever since he can remember, ever since he was a little boy, his dad had chickens, and he kind of just grew up around chickens. And his dad used to, back when it was legal, it's still legal out there, out in Guadalajara, and he's originally from Atotonilco, which is close by. And he says that he still remembers, some of his father's like buddies and local chicken men saying, "Hey, we think your son Tranquilino's kind of crazy a little bit. He just talks to chickens all the time. He's not talking chickens. He's talking to them." So
wow,
he's like, since I can remember, I've just been passionate about being around chickens and having a connection with them.
So,
Sí,
mhm,
y de ahí ya empecé a ver a mi papá que le gustaban los gallos, pero él no quería que yo tuviera gallos, como los padres, que ese no era bueno, pero pues yo me la pasaba con mis gallos. En un principio tuve escondido afuera en la casa, en la azotea, en el techo, tuve mis gallos, y si mi papá se diera cuenta que ya tenía yo gallos, me decían, allá se oyen gallos, le digo, sí, son del vecino, no son míos. Hasta el día que se subió, pues, tómala, si eran míos, regañadón. De ahí para adelante me dijo, pues si quieres tener, trata de tener de lo mejor. Y de ahí empezó.
Yeah, he says. I think he let me translate a little bit of his
uh-huh.
the first part of it. Second part of the answer is he says that his father didn't want him to have chickens.
No?
So what Tranquilino did at a young age is he went to the roof and he
Mhm.
started putting pens up there, hiding them from his father, and he had them for a while. And his dad would be like, "Hey, I hear chickens somewhere. I can hear roosters. Someone's got cocks somewhere around this area." And
He was gonna
Tranquilino was yeah, and then Tranquilino was like, "Hey, I think the neighbor has some chickens." You know, he says that eventually his father went up there and checked, and he came across them, and he's like, "Hey, come on, it's been you this whole time." And Tranquilino like, "Yeah, you got me." So at that point, his dad's like, "Okay, so you're serious about it? I'm gonna give you the best advice I can give you. Is
Uh-huh.
if you're gonna do this, try to be the best and try to have the best chickens around." And then that's how he kind
Mm.
of got his father's blessing, and then here he is.
Wow, that's too funny, man. He had the chickens on the roof, on the techo on the roof, and he said, "Oh, maybe the neighbor has them next door."
Right, right.
Wow, that's too funny, man. Uh, so tell me this, with saying that his father obviously had chickens when as a young child of his. Was his father relationship to game foul kind of the same approach that Tranquilino took to game foul as well?
Dice, pregunta que si su papá tenía los mismos métodos que usted tiene con sus gallos. ¿Es de ahí donde usted empezó a aprender sus técnicas o eso fue producción de usted poco a poco con el tiempo ir forjando su propio camino? ¿Cómo empezó? ¿Su papá compartía ciertas cosas o no?
No, mira, mi papá, el método de él es muy diferente, el método que todos lo usaban, aventaban el gallo, lo volaban bien muchas veces, lo hacían echar maroma, lo hacían patar, lo hacían que rascara, ahí nos ponía a seguirlo con un costal para pasearlo, mucho, muy diferente a como yo me empecé a manejar el método mío, mucho, muy diferente, él como lo convencional de todo el mundo.
He says that no, not at all. He says that he believes that his father used the methods that most people to this day still use,
Mhm,
and it was a little bit more old school for him. It was. He says that to his opinion, his father would just throw him very very high in the air, throw the chicken
mhm,
very very high in the air, make him
mhm,
his flies were like ridiculous. He would like
mhm,
make the chicken like do turns and
mhm,
cartwheels, and he
mhm,
would chase them around. His father would have him chase them around
mhm,
with like an attachment,
mhm,
just to give them exercise and
mhm,
walk them around,
mhm,
scratching. So he said it was pretty. He was pretty rough on the chickens,
mhm,
as far as doing flips and
mhm,
cartwheels and all this stuff that
mhm.
he kind of doesn't he doesn't do. He takes it a little bit more easy on them.
Easy on him. So I asked him, was it because of that? When did he determine that he wanted to take a different approach than what he had been raised in, from what he had witnessed with his father? How old was, like, when did he take that upon himself, saying, you know what, I want to do it a little bit different? Was it his relationship with the chickens? Like, what was it that caused him to take a different direction?
Dice que cuando piensa usted o qué fue lo que pasó cuando que usted dijo, sabes que yo voy a intentar este método, los métodos que usted tiene ahorita. ¿Qué fue? ¿Fue a consecuencia de que usted miraba que eso no funcionaba o qué es exactamente lo que lo trajo a empezar a usar sus métodos, a cambiar sus métodos de lo que su papá hacía?
Y lo que pasaba cuando mi papá movía los gallos, yo agarraba otros animales. Él tenía un sillón largo, medía como unos 4 metros de sillón, donde hacían comidas. Y ahí me pasaba yo caminando el gallo con él y platicando. Y yo empecé a ver que el gallo sí entendían, sí le hacían caso a uno, la verdad. Y empecé a irme por ese lado, ¿no? Por el cariño al gallo, mentalmente, que mentalmente estuviera preparado y me fui por ese camino. Por eso decía a mi papá que tu muchacho está medio loco, ¿no? Ir a platicar con los gallos.
He says that basically, he would see the way his father would do things, and
Mm-hmm.
he didn't think any of it. And he
Mm-hmm.
slowly, as he was watching his father do that, he would
Mm-hmm.
work his roosters. He says that he would grab a stag or
Mm-hmm.
whatever was available, and
Mm-hmm.
his dad had a very very long sofa. It was like 3-4 meters long,
Mm-hmm.
and he was little, and he would just walk his bird
Up and back.
along on that sofa. He would just talk to him and talk to him and talk to him, and he noticed that the more he talked to him, the more he handled them that way.
Mm-hmm.
That eventually the rooster it was almost like he was understanding everything
Mm.
Tranquilino was telling him to do. So
Mm.
everything he as time went by, he realized, hey, chickens actually will eventually know what I want from them, and that's how we
Mm.
kind of started, taking it one step further every time.
So ask him around what age was he? Like how old was he around this time? Just a roundabout figure.
Sí, más o menos, ¿qué edad tenía cuando usted empezó a hacer eso en el sofá y todo eso?
Tenía alrededor de 10 años, estaba muy chico, llegaba a la escuela y me iba, yo agarraba mis gallos según eso. Y ya se me hacía algo muy bonito cuando yo soltaba el animal y él me bajaba al agua, me daba la vuelta y se paraba a que yo lo agarrara. Desde ese momento, no sé, fue un clic que di con el gallo, con el animal, que dije mentalmente, como que hubo una conexión, ¿no? Hubo una conexión y esa fue mi forma de empezar a trabajar con él.
He said he was around 10 years old,
Mm.
give or take,
Mm-hmm.
and he says that it was something that just kind of clicked one day.
Mm-hmm.
He noticed there was a connection. The more he did it, he would go back to that same rooster, and that same rooster would do little circles around
Mm-hmm.
him. Put his wing down and
Mm-hmm.
try to play with him. And Tranquilino said, "Hey, there's some kind of connection, and
Mm-hmm.
somehow the birds, want to play with me. They want me to show them the way, and then they kind of do what I ask of them." So that's when he started, noticing this connection, and again, he started building off of that.
Wow. Wow. So does he remember back then, like what family of birds that his father had that he had started messing around with?
Señor Tranquilino, dice Jim que si usted recuerda qué familias tenía su papá de gallos o tenía, qué es lo que usted recuerda, ¿tenía líneas o nomás tenía gallos X su papá?
Sí, mira, mi tío, el hermano de él que estaba en Guadalajara, eran unos patas verdes, hatches, eran hatches nada más, pues no sabíamos si eran, no decían que eran McLean, pero nada, un hatches, pata verde, cabezas cuadradas, mucho, mucho, muy poderosos. Entonces, en el pueblo, yo le agarraba un gallo de esos y pues eran gallos de otro nivel, ¿no? Entonces, por ahí andábamos en las calles donde empieza uno en ladrilla escondidos y ahí nos iba más o menos. Así es como empezamos en los corrales, en las calles, y por eso mi papá me regañaba que no anduviera agarrando sus gallos.
So he says that, as he mentioned, his father would show in Guadalajara and
Mhm.
local pits and whatnot.
Mhm.
They had some hatches pretty much. So
Mhm.
his father had access to some hatches. He says they just knew that they were green-legged hatches,
Mhm. Right.
straight comb,
Right.
and they were very, very, very strong and powerful roosters.
Right.
That's all he knows. He has no idea if they were
What they were.
McLean's or whatever.
Right. Right.
He just knows them as hatches. They were
Right.
green-legged. They were very good birds.
Right.
And when he would bring those birds, under his care, and show them, in the street or in a back alley or whatever of the small town, he said he would do very, very well. And, people started noticing him, and he started noticing himself like, hey, I can do something. And that's how he started building off of that.
Wow. So it's kind of just like his experience of messing around with the birds, and then he went testing them out in little backyards and back alleys and started to see some results. So he kind of figured he was on the right track. Huh. Ask him, does he remember? I'm sure he does. The first time or when he started to get serious into this, like, around what age did he really start to get serious and really wanted to compete inside the pits and not just in the back alleys?
Dice que usted recuerda a qué edad o en qué momento usted dijo, estoy haciendo algo bueno, me estoy yendo un poco fuerte, y empezó a tomar lo que era el mundo del gallo ya un poco más serio. ¿A qué edad, qué momento fue y más o menos qué edad tenía usted cuando eso pasó, que usted tuvo ese clic también?
Me acuerdo bien, fue en el año 2001, en el 2001, cuando empecé yo pues ya a preparar gallos, a empezar a adquirir una ganancia, una remuneración por ese tipo de trabajo. Fue cuando empecé con mis animalitos. Nos juntábamos con los amigos a jugar ahí en Atotonilco, y nos iba bien, de viejitos ya $1,000, de viejitos chiquitos, y de ahí empezamos, y fue donde la gente me empezó a buscar y me empezó a ver.
He says that he remembers it was about 2001 when he started noticing, like, how do I have a little bit of money in my pockets? And he realized it was from these derbies he was winning in 2001. There were local derbies. He says it wasn't much, but to him it was something. He says that those derbies were about $1,000 which is approximately $65-$70.
Right.
The entry fees. And that's how he started noticing, like, hey, I don't have money, but I got more money than I'm used to having. So that's when he took a liking, and he said, maybe I could, upgrade a little bit, and that's how he started in 2001.
2001. During that era, did he have any mentors, or a lot of this stuff was kind of being self-taught?
¿Usted tenía algunos mentores que le estaban enseñando todas estas técnicas, o usted se enseñó solo, o cómo fue el proceso cómo llegó a empezar a implementar usted sus propios métodos?
Me la pasaba, mandaba a un compadre a comprar la revista El Gallo de Oro, y ahí iba yo leyendo, y de ahí me iba informando y viendo. Era un sueño ver en la revista, ver un gallo con la cola blanca. Era el sueño más grande que tenía cuando nos juntábamos en las calles, y ese era mi sueño. Y yo seguía mucho los partidos grandes, al partido del Líbano, pues más por la revista, ¿no? Pero yo tenía ganas. Lo que pasó, un día fui a un palenque a acompañar a un amigo, y una persona ahí me dijo que yo que iba ahí, yo no era de ese nivel, yo era un chacharraco nada más ahí. Me humilló, y en ese día dije, voy a ser alguien en la vida en el gallo, y ahí fue donde empezó.
Wow. So he says that he would pick up a magazine, when he started getting a little bit serious. He would pick up a magazine, and he would just read just random topics, random reads in the magazine, and he would actually go to the back or go to the section where there was pictures of birds.
Right.
And he wanted, in that moment, he was obsessed with having a rooster that had a white tail. He doesn't know why. He was just obsessed with some rooster that had a white tail. It was everything to him. And he would follow closely in that magazine. I believe Mr. Victor Tame with Libano team. He would, that's when they were very strong, and he would, he would follow them in the magazines, if you will. He says that the turning point was based off of that magazine. He kind of found a bigger pit as he started reading along. And he went and attended that pit, and he says that he remembers one of the gentlemen there at the pit um, told him that what was he doing there? He didn't belong there.
Right.
And he said that he was just some lame dude that didn't belong in that big pit,
Right.
and he would never amount to anything because that was for the big boys. So
Wow.
he felt very humiliated. The guy humiliated him
Oh.
to not get into some of the language he used, and he said that that's how Tranquilino said, you know what? I told myself I'm gonna be something in the chicken world, because there's no way I am what that guy tried to assume or tell me that I was. I'm gonna be something good in this sport. So
Wow.
that
Aparte,
lit up his passion.
en esos días jugué un brevecito pequeño y los gallos jugaron muy bien. Y un doctor que quiero mencionarlo y agradecerle, el doctor Franco de Atotonilco Alto, Jalisco, a su hijo Alejandro, fueron las primeras personas que confiaron en mí, las primeras personas que me dieron gallos a cuidar. Llegaron a su pobre casa en Atotonilco, que si no les cuidaba, dijo, es que yo no cuido ajenos, nada más para divertirme. Y me dijeron, es que nos gusta cómo manejas el gallo. Y gracias a ellos fue cuando empecé ya en otro, como dicen por ahí, otro paso.
Yeah, so he says that around that same time, and he wants to mention Doctor Franco and his son Alejandro from Atotonilco, and that's his hometown. He says that around that same time they approached him and they said, "Hey, Tranquilino, we want you to feed and look after some of our chickens." And Tranquilino said, "Well, I don't do this for a living. It's just me, and I'm just having fun here." And those gentlemen said, "Hey, no, we think that you're better than what you think you are. We see, you're a bright young guy, and we like what we see from your birds, the way you handle them, the way you care for them, and your passion. And we want to give you some. We want to give you some of our birds." And he says that they started having good results. So that's when he sparked that passion, that humiliation he had around that time.
Right.
These gentlemen, pretty much catapulted him to start something positive.
Right. So he started on his journey. So that was the beginning of his journey when he got humiliated like that. Wow. That's a very powerful story. Because it seems like the humiliation really drove him, like put some fire in him to really take this serious and start to participate in the sport with a purpose. Do he feel as though that's when he took it like, I'm gonna participate in this sport with a purpose and not just playing around and just, making a couple bucks and that type of thing?
Dice que usted cree que entonces esas humillaciones, esos comentarios que vinieron a su persona de usted, fue algo que usted dijo, sabe que en vez de agüitarme, voy a tomar esta oportunidad y usarla, en vez de que me tumbe, como lumbre para hacer una hoguera de ganas de salir adelante. ¿Es
Sí,
correcto?
mira,
¿Usted piensa que eso pasó?
sí, pasó eso y me quería demostrar a mí mismo que yo podía, y tanto el amor que le tengo al gallo, yo pienso que eso me ayudó a seguir adelante, ¿no? Como dicen por ahí, me chillaron un poquito y saqué los hatch adelante y gracias a Dios, mira, a tu ahorita estamos, pero yo no dejo de agradecerle a todas las personas que confiaron en el primer momento que empezó mi carrera como pastor.
He says that absolutely, that fueled him, and he says that in that moment he feels as if he was this hatch rooster himself, and he was eager, he was passionate, and he felt like when you teased a good game hatch rooster, and he became game and stubborn in his ideas and said, I'm gonna do something. I turned myself into a hatch rooster myself, and I figured I was gonna be as game as possible, and that's what that mentality is what catapulted him to, start doing something great. And again, he couldn't have done it with these people that he mentions.
Wow, he couldn't have done it without those guys. So the doctor gave him an opportunity to pursue something that he already wanted to pursue, but by them giving him the chickens to do it, that's what started him on his journey. That's a very powerful story because it shows the root of his success. Seems like it started from humiliation, and for him having something to prove, which a lot of times is a very powerful emotion that drives people to do things that they didn't even know they was even capable of doing. Wow, that's a powerful one there. What I would like to know then, with him doing, him starting off and doing well then, do he feel as though his emotional connection or his connection that he has had with his foul back then played a huge role in his success then? Or was it just techniques and knowing how to rotate or knowing how to work on a bench? Or was it a big part of his connection with these chickens that allow him to do well?
¿Usted piensa que cuando usted iba empezando, ya que iba empezando un poquito más fuerte, usted echó de ver que era la conexión que tiene con los gallos, o de principio empezó un poquito más tradicional de dar mesa, rotación, todo eso, o hacía un poquito de todo? ¿Qué era su técnica? ¿Cree que tuvo mucho que ver también la conexión esta de la que usted habla que tiene con sus gallos?
Sí, mira, yo pienso que en principio empecé así, porque yo con mi papá me gustaba aventar el sillón, ese era lo que te platico, que te diga, y lo seguía hasta que subía a pesar él solo en una báscula. Entonces yo sentía que cuando él ya lo aventaba, mi papá tenía un pasto, y si iba el gallo, se subía al sillón, se caminaba y se paraba en la báscula, y él esperaba a que yo llegara a agarrarlo, sentía que él estaba ya listo. Entonces desde un principio ese ha sido mi método. Mi método de postura, esa conexión con el gallo.
He says, Jim, that, again, he feels that he never detached from that one sofa where he himself would, walk him around, and that was like his bench work, but it was very light. It was more so he was just connecting with the rooster, and he started noticing that the rooster, would then transfer over to the scale to weigh himself, because, he would place him there. So the rooster started noticing, hey, I know where I have to go. So he started noticing that, and that's kind of what it started, and everything that he now is, and he never deviated from it, because he just built off of it, and he said, hey, this seems to be working. I have this connection, so the roosters seem to be responding to the kind of treatment I apply with them. So that's what he thinks. That's what he thinks he catapulted him, and he just built off of it slowly. But ultimately, it was 100% that one couch with the scale with the roosters and him being 10 years old.
Wow. He carried that on. So ask him, and we don't have to get in. It's like a two-part question. Does his methods today, are they different than those methods back there when he was 14, 15 years old, when he was starting to compete, when it came to conditioning? We know the mental aspect has been the same, but has his techniques of conditioning birds changed from today versus what they were when he was, 12, 13, 14 years old?
Dice que sus métodos de usted han cambiado de esos métodos que usted usaba cuando usted era un adolescente y empezaba a dar sus pasos un poquito más serios. ¿Eso ha cambiado en el transcurso? O sea, los métodos mentales y la conexión que usted tiene, obviamente no. Está hablando de métodos de cómo, si los volaba, los caminaba o los pajeaba, lo que sea. ¿Es algo que usted ha ido implementando diferente, o son los mismos métodos que usted está usando hoy en día?
Sí, mira, todo ha evolucionado. He cambiado el tipo de instalación. Sí, lo he ido mejorando cada día, viendo qué lugar es más confortable, en qué te pueda dar mejor rendimiento, el que se sienta más a gusto. Eso sí he cambiado. Antes no había esos voladeros que hay ahora. Antes, donde teníamos no había cuerda, eran unas jaulitas chiquitas que los sacaba uno a rascar y los metía. Así era antes. Y sí, he evolucionado, he cambiado, pero más que nada en las instalaciones. El método parcialmente viene siendo el mismo, con sus adecuadas infiltraciones, ¿no? Que le haces a cada cosa, cierto arreglo, cierto cambio que sea mejor para él.
He says that he has he considers he's had a little bit of an evolution as far as like the hands-on side of it. Obviously, the mental side, the connection side, has always been the same. But he says that he's built off of it mainly just installation of cages, fly pens. He says he didn't have fly pens back then. They didn't really exist. He says those massive fly pens that we can see now, and he says that they didn't even have tie cords back then. So now as things are more readily available,
right?
He's actually tried different methods, and it's mainly the setup that's changed.
The setup. Okay. Do he think back then when he met the doctor, they gave him this opportunity? Did he feel as though back then his methods was like he was before his time? You know what I mean? Like what he's doing is kind of before his time. Like he's doing stuff that a lot of guys are not even thinking about. Or do he think it was just his drive to just keep working? Do he feel as though he outworked his competition? Or do he feel as though he just had a whole different approach to conditioning these roosters when he started winning at such a young age?
Don Tranquilino dice que usted piensa que si usted sus métodos estaban mejor que los demás y que sus métodos eran muy innovativos para ese tiempo, o usted piensa que usted simplemente le echaba más ganas que los demás y fue su pasión que lo trajo a donde está, o una combinación de las dos. ¿Qué opina usted? ¿Qué piensa que lo separó del montón, podemos decir?
Yo pienso la consistencia y la humildad más que nada, y el siempre querer aprender, ver nuevas cosas, asimilar, aceptar cuando alguien trae algo mejor, algo diferente. En el momento que lo aceptas, lo vas a brincar, lo vas a superar porque estás aceptando que hay algo mejor que tú. Entonces tienes que superar eso. Eso es lo que me ha ayudado mucho, mucho en aceptar. ¿Sí? En aceptar cuando algo es mejor, a que entonces nos tenemos que mejorar, porque hay algo que está mejor que nosotros, tenemos que brincar a ser mejor que ellos, ¿sí? No, eso es lo que me ha ayudado más que nada la conexión, ¿no? Ser humilde y aceptar cuando algo hay mejor, dicen por ahí, hay que unírtele y aprender y tratar de superarlo.
He says that mainly what he really thinks set him apart is consistency. In his passion, hard work, but he always stayed humble. He feels that he always wanted to learn. He never limited himself. He never said, "Oh, I know it all, so I got this." He says he's always tried to adapt himself. So he feels that that approach has made him learn so much more.
Wow. And just tell him I'm really interested. And the reason why I'm asking him these type of questions, because I'm deeply interested in his beginning, because I know we see him as he is today, very, very accomplished cocker today. But I'm asking him these questions to really trying to dig into the roots of how he became who he is today, which is always set, in his beginning. Oh, we lost him. He'll be back. He'll be back.
He'll be back.
Once he come back, that's what I would like to ask him. I mean, we know how successful he is today, but I really want to know, like, how he made to where he's at today, man. That's why I'm really interested in these questions of his mindset at a young age, his approach at a young age. Was he open-minded? Was he flexible in his learning? Or did he have a mentor that just wanted him to learn things this way and no other way? You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I'm really interested in that. But and then once he answered this last question, and we can kind of fast forward to where he is today, and his methods and stuff like that. But
Right.
yeah, that's really probably the last question we want to ask him.
Yeah, he should. He hasn't. I don't know if his phone died or what, but that was pretty sudden, you know.
Yeah, he might have
He'll
lost
be back.
connection.
We've
Yeah,
been working on this behind the scenes. He
yeah.
knows what to do.
But guys, hold on tight. He'll be back. But in the meantime, we see a lot of guys checking in from all over the place. If y'all guys got any questions, actually, Peter is some Spanish comments. Can you see him, Peter?
Cuéntanos poquito de la postura de los gallos. Yeah, Héctor Borja, gracias por acompañarnos. Héctor Borja wants us to ask him when we get a chance, and we will get into it. To maybe if he can tell us a little bit about his keep and pre-keep and that kind of system. Héctor, ahorita le vamos a preguntar, vamos a entrar en esos temas. Acompáñanos poquito en la entrevista. Pero sí vamos a entrar a este tema definitivamente.
Yeah. Let Hector know. Hector, he's a member of the Journey to the Pit membership channel. But yeah, we definitely going to get into that. I know that's always the hot aspects of these interviews.
That's what we all want to know.
But again, guys, if we just focus on the finish line, but not the training that went into how he won that race, then learning what he wore the day of the race is irrelevant. You know what I'm saying? Like knowing what kind of shoes he wore and what kind of, all that stuff is irrelevant if we just bypass the fact that he trained 7 days a week, 3 times a day. You know what I'm saying? We gotta, it's a combination. And I know typically a lot of guys just want to learn the fast forward aspect. And not saying it's a bad thing, it's just nature. Well, what did you do? Well, we definitely got to understand that it all ties together.
Right.
It all ties together. And
I agree.
It all ties together.
Let me say that to the people, the Spanish speakers. Muchos obviamente queremos entrar al tema del cuido y todo eso, postura, y este es un tema que todos queremos saber. Dice Jim que es un tema que es bueno el tema, pero hay que saber también el camino, la jornada de cómo llegamos a eso. Jim, I believe he's asking if you can send him the link through WhatsApp.
Okay.
Do you want me to log out, send him a link, and then, or you got it?
Let me see right here. Hold on 1 second, because
And let me get some water real quick, Jim. I just really quick, yeah. Give me a couple seconds, but I'm listening.
Yeah, I don't want to lose you.
No, I'm here. I'm getting water. I'm literally getting water.
Okay, let's see here. Copy the link. Guys, I know y'all love these live streams, doing these live interviews, but this is one of the downsides. This is one of the downsides of doing live interviews and not pre-recorded, because y'all guys get to be a part of the bloopers. Y'all guys get to be a part of the technical difficulties and all. Y'all get to be a part of the whole deal. Y'all getting all of it.
Right.
I did resend that link in a chat, in a WhatsApp chat. Guys, we've been working on this since yesterday. We probably was on the a mic check for over an hour, right? That had to be
at least. At least.
Yeah, it had to be over an hour, and we was dealing with issues the whole time. The freezing, popping in, popping out. We was concerned that we wasn't even going to be able to do the interview, but like Peter said, hey, let's just do it, and we'll just deal with whatever we got to deal with tomorrow. And I'm like,
amigos, estemos, obviamente todas estas cosas son en vivo y tenemos pues obviamente dificultades aquí y allá. Ya regresó el máster. Aquí estamos. Nomás le estamos explicando a la gente que a veces se complican las cosas por la tecnología y eso. Pero aquí ya estamos, ¿no?
You got it?
Ok, ahora sí. ¿Sí me escuchan bien?
Sí, sí, you can hear him and he's fine, right, Jim?
Yep.
¿Sí me
I can see.
escuchan?
Yo lo escucho. ¿Usted
Ok,
nos
ya está.
escucha,
Tuvimos un problema
Tranquilino?
con el teléfono ahí.
No hay problema. Y nosotros sabemos.
Perfecto.
He says he can see us and hear us
Ok,
fine.
seguimos.
Okay. All right. So we're going to fast forward it, because I can see from the comment section these guys want to kind of get into the meat of potatoes. But let Tranquilino know the reason why I was asking those questions, because I think it's extremely important to learn the backstory of how he became who he is today.
Dice Tranquilino que la gente está preguntando mucho qué postura y todo eso, ¿no? Y obviamente pues todos queremos saber y estamos emocionados, ansiosos, siempre es un tema que, o sea, es súper enfrente de todos, casi todos quieren saber eso, pero dice Jim que nosotros queremos saber su historia, queremos saber todo el proceso de cómo llega a su postura, obviamente, entonces es necesario decirle a la gente y toda su historia y saber cómo llegó al éxito, no nada más decirles, vamos a hablar de las últimas 3 semanas o un mes o qué sé yo. Entonces, por eso, toda la gente que nos esté viendo, escuchando, es un proceso y queremos no darles nada más las últimas 2 semanas o los últimos 3 días, queremos saber toda la historia y lo que necesitamos hacer para llegar a esos días, ¿no? Esos meses que tanto les interesa a la persona.
Sí, mira, te platico, empecé y ya el doctor Franco trabajé con él, me fue muy bien y de ahí me habló otra persona, el partido del Chapingo, me fui con él a trabajar, lo llevé a ser el gallero del año 3 años en Guadalajara, en un club con don Félix Bañuelos, y de ahí me vieron las personas con las que anduve aquí en San José de la Paz, Jalisco, el partido de los Sabinos, es donde empezamos ya a otro nivel más arriba.
He says that he started with a few gentlemen, right? Where he feels that again he started getting into higher levels of shows, and that's how he started pretty much building off of it. But yes, there's always a process. You can't just expect getting from point A to point B, just skipping everything. There's a lot of decimals in between and different stops, and it's important for people to know that he took different approaches, he took different routes with different people that got him to where he's at now.
Where he's at now, exactly. Okay, so the next 3 topics or the next 3 points that I would kind of like to talk about, which a lot of people in the comments and viewers are wanting to know. I would like to talk about if he breeds his own fowl, what family he breeds. I would like to talk about his conditioning methods, if he do rotation, if he does bench work, and I would like if he can get into much as detail as he's comfortable with. And then the biggest thing is this mental aspect, because I would like to know, when did he get this name as well of the Chicken Whisperer?
Sí, dice que vamos a entrar a ciertos puntos, ciertos temas, y uno de ellos va a ser como la cría usted sus propios gallos, qué líneas tiene, obviamente, también sus métodos de cuido, usa mesa, rotación o una combinación de todo, ¿sí me entienden? Entonces, I'm sorry guys,
No worries.
pero quiere también saber cuándo usted piensa o qué lo llevó a que le digan el domador de gallos. ¿Sí me entiende? Hay muchas técnicas que definitivamente queremos saber o que nos eduque de cómo llegó a ese nivel.
Sí, mira, yo trabajaba en el partido, aquí en San José, partido de los Sabinos, y nos invitan, me dicen al patrón, jugábamos derby chicos, y gracias a Dios dominamos en toda la región aquí en Jalisco, en Guadalajara. El derby más caro jugábamos de 20,000 pesos en ese tiempo. Y el señor Enrique Mabú, un empresario de primera división, nos invita, me dice el patrón que si entramos a jugar a primera división, y dije yo, oye, pero ahí está tremendo, porque hay que viajar. Hay que salir a toda la República, y nosotros nomás viajamos 1 hora y media, no sabemos más. Y ya me dijo, vamos entrándole, bajamos si podemos, bueno, y si no, pues seguimos donde estamos. Y ahí es donde brincamos a primera división y es donde empezamos a darnos a conocer más con el mundo del gallo, ¿sí? Él en el 2000, en el 2010, 2011 se tuvo que retirar de los gallos y ya yo seguí por mi cuenta y es donde empezaron a subir por ahí un video de unos amigos que él tiene un amigo que le gustan los gallos, pero dice que él ya no anda peleando con los gallos, le pegan, le vuelan, lo golpean y estaba conmigo y me habló que si podía traerlo porque él le contó que tiene un amigo que pues el gallo se pesa solo y eso dijo que no era cierto, sería imposible. Y le dije que si quería le hacía un video y me dijo, no, vamos para allá. Vinieron desde Michoacán a mi gallera y fue el primer video que salió en redes sociales que yo ya de para allá suelta el gallo acá afuera, se va y se sube y se pesa solo. Y hicieron una apuesta grande. Lamentablemente yo no pude cobrar la apuesta porque era entre ellos, ¿no? De ese video y de ahí empezó a poner la gente el encantador de gallos, de ese video que salió.
He says that yes, absolutely. So he started, again, he had a couple people he used to work with, right? They started being successful in pits, in derbies that were about 20,000 pesos. Entry fee was like 1,200. And he says that it was Mr. Enrique Mabu that he said, hey, you should come and play with us in first division. And he said, the boss was like, oh yeah, we should go. And the guy was like, the boss was like, yeah, we should go. That sounds like a great idea. And Tranquilino was like, you need to think about this because it's tough out there. And, eventually they started trying to, they started trying to see what he could do. And just to touch on his nickname, he says that's kind of when it started around the same time where people in that level were like, hey, there's this guy that has a chicken that weighs himself. And this guy didn't believe it. They made a large bet. They went all the way from Michoacan to visit him to see it. And he says that it was a very large bet. I believe there was like music involved and a big party, and that was the
whole
bet.
Fiestival, huh? A whole fiesta.
Yeah, and he says that unfortunately for him, he wasn't part of it. He just helped the guy win the bet because no one could believe what he could do with the chickens, and someone happened to have a phone. They uploaded it, and that's how he became the chicken
whisperer. Wow, that's where the story all starts. Right. Tell him I appreciate him sharing that because nobody can give me the answer. Everybody just told me, hey, you talking about the chicken whisperer, the chicken whisperer. I'm like, well, how did he get that name? I don't know. They just call him the chicken whisperer. So that's why I wanted him to share that story. So all the viewers out there they know now how Tranquilino got his nickname, the chicken whisperer. Wow.
Sí, dice que gracias por compartir esta historia, que nada más todos pues saben que usted lo que hace con los gallos y eso, pero nadie le ha podido dar a detalle o una historia de cómo empezó eso, y gracias por compartir, que ahora ya sabemos nosotros y todo el mundo también.
Qué bueno, sí, fíjate, así empezó y sobre esa apuesta en las redes sociales me dijo mi amigo que si lo pudiera subir al Face. En ese tiempo dije, pues, ¿qué es el Face? Yo no sabía qué era el Face. Dije, pues súbelo, no hay problema. Y se hizo muy viral y de ahí para acá empezó. En cuanto ese video se hizo viral, a los 15 días ganó el World Derby en Guadalajara, el Challenger. Ganó ese derby importante en ese tiempo. Y luego enseguida ganó 8 ventajas al hilo y 4 derbis grandes. Entonces fue una explosión, ¿no? Una explosión grande.
Yeah, he says that's really what happened. And this gentleman, it all kind of like came together. This gentleman said, hey, can I upload it to Facebook? And Tranquilino says that he had no idea what even Facebook was back then. So he's like, sure, you can upload it, no problem. He says that he uploaded it, it kind of went viral.
Right.
And then 2 weeks later, he happens to win a massive derby in Guadalajara.
Uh-huh.
and then he wins a couple. I think he mentioned 8 mains in a row or something like that.
Wow.
And then like 4 more derbies in a row, so that he just blew up. It just
It
all
just
happened to work
solidified.
out.
It just
Yeah,
solidified his new nickname.
it all just came together, and it was a big boom. And that's when people started definitely noticing him and absolutely respecting him.
Wow.
Sí,
Wow.
mira, y te voy a enseñar el cuadro de ese derby. Aquí lo tengo atrás
Yeah, he's gonna show us
para que lo veas.
that prize or that recognition from that derby that he won, and that's what's on screen right now, guys.
Oh, wow. Look at that. Look at that.
And just so you guys know, his team name, Tranquilino's team name is Quinta Gomari.
Hey, say that in
farm name.
Spanish too, Peter. What you just
Ah,
said.
sí, para toda la gente que no sabe, que la granja del señor se llama Quinta Gomari, su equipo es Quinta Gomari. Es correcto, ¿verdad, señor Tranquilino?
Sí, es
Su
correcto, Quinta
partido es Quinta
Gomari.
Gomari.
Yeah, that is awesome, dude. Well, we got it. We got our history lesson, and you heard it first because even the guy who uploaded the video didn't tell the whole story, I guess. But so let's talk now about what families he have, and does he compete with stuff that he breeds, or do he just feed for other people?
Hay que hablar un poquito de las familias de gallos que usted tiene. Y si usted cría a sus propios gallos y también si cuida para otra gente.
Sí, mira, yo creo mis propios animales, tengo mis propias familias. Estoy atrás de muchos partidos con mis gallos jugando y aparte sí, mi trabajo es más que nada también cuidar a ciertas personas. Ahorita estoy poniendo los gallos al partido del Herradero y Kentucky. Estoy poniendo partidos a Javi Zacapo. Estamos a unos de los muchachos de Los Cabos, a otros de Tijuana, a muchos de Estados Unidos. Estamos trabajando y más que nada mucho gallo puesto, ¿no? Con mucha gente.
Yeah, he says he does breed his own chickens, of course, and now he's so recognized, he's so busy that he does help different teams around Mexico, and he does help out people. Plenty of different teams contact him, so he can feed and condition his their chickens.
Okay, which I figured, because I know once you get to a certain level, you have people beating down your door to come and assist their team because everybody wants to win. So I kind of figured that. So what I would like to talk about now is, what families do he have and what he likes about these families that he currently have.
¿Qué familias tiene ahorita, señor Tranquilino? ¿Y qué es
Mira,
lo que le gusta de estas líneas?
tengo mi familia de suéteres. Tengo 3 familias de suéteres en una sola, les digo los 3 en uno. Y trabajándolas entre sí ellas, me resultaron unos patas verdes. Sí, cuando me resultaron unos patas verdes, yo me enojé con mi señora porque mi señora se encargaba de ir a incubar. Y llegaron eran hembras nada más, y unas patas verdes, y la regañé, y ¿sabes qué? Ya nos metieron gol aquí. Yo no tengo ninguna familia pata verde para que nos salgan patas verdes. Y sí quedé un poco molesto, y también ella nos quedamos como, caray, ¿qué pasaría? Al siguiente año el lote ese no lo mandé a incubar, los dejé que se crean sus gallinas solas y resultaron otros patas verdes, caray, sí, ese telote, y me empecé a informar, empecé a leer, ¿no? Sobre el gallo en Estados Unidos, sobre la sangre, la línea, la sangre, los nombres, y sí, efectivamente, sí me encontré con que mis tesueres, los primeros gallos eran patas verdes. Ya en una cruza que hicieron por ahí ellos, salieron los pasamarías, y los conocemos comúnmente todo el mundo, ¿no? Pero a través del trabajo y del trabajo que estás haciendo te puede resultar un gen, por ahí le nombran gen recesivo, y me salió el pata verde y me gustó mucho la anatomía de la hembra, y empecé a querer hacer los uniformes que me salieran todos patas verdes y lo logré. corriendo el riesgo que iba a ser un gen recesivo a lo mejor malo, ¿no? Y gracias a Dios salió muy bueno. Mi suere patas verdes es una sangre que me gusta mucho porque es un gallo muy combativo. Arriba es muy fuerte y abajo es súper poderoso. Ahorita, cuando nos echan gallos asilados, con los suere pata verde los estamos dominando muy fácilmente.
You remember all that, Peter?
I remember all of it because
Good.
it's very interesting. And yes,
Wow.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So he says that that he has different families, but he'll start with he's got some sweaters. You know, that very interesting story actually. He says so his wife helps him, and you know they started putting, you know, brood pens together. And one year his wife was helping him, and you know, he got green-legged pullets off the sweaters. And this was way back when, and he was like, he said he was a little upset at the situation and his wife, like, hey, what's going on? You know, back then they would incubate them, they would send them off, and they got green-legged pullets, and he was like, hey, someone did something to us, like there's no way we're gonna get, you know, green-legged sweaters. And you know, he was upset. Then he started reading, and he figured that the Mr. Sweater McGinnis, he was very famous for green-legged chickens. So he said that he started reading and educating himself, and he said that that was a recessive gene. The next year, you know, they said, you know, we're not gonna put him in an incubator with someone else, with a third party. We're gonna do it ourselves with the hens out of that same lot. And they started getting more green-legged sweaters, and he started just, you know, breeding towards the green-legged side. You know, obviously they would get yellow-legged ones too.
Right.
And you know, a lot of people were telling, man, like that's just trash. You know.
Right.
You know, and he was skeptical himself, and he's like, hey, we're either gonna get some good stuff, or you know, this is all gonna flop.
Right.
And he says that luckily they're super super powerful on the floor, on the ground, and sweaters are not really known for that. And they still have that typical sweater characteristic, you know, pretty high flying. They do most damage, you know, when they're in the air, but when they get on the ground, they're very smart and extremely powerful, you know, and they blemish the other chickens very very well. And he does mention proudly that that is one of the is proudly is proud lines that he can say that he neutralizes ASILs with them. So, you know, that's a good thing.
Go ahead.
Sí, mira, y mi sangre de suere provienen de Carol, de Dean Fair y de Just Neil. Son mis tres sangre de sueres. Tengo mi sangre de Kelso, me lo regaló una persona directa de con Cantrell, Dal Cantrell, no sé cómo se pronuncia. Unos Kelso para mí es lo mejor. Son unos gallos muy defensivos, pero a la hora de atacar, hasta que no acaban con su rival. Son gallos muy, muy, muy completos. Mi sangre de Hatches, es una sangre de Blueface. Son gallos que tienen un tren muy, muy, muy cabrón, decimos por ahí. Mucha casta, mucho poder. Ese Blueface me le ha dado últimamente un plus a mi sangre de Sweater y a mi sangre de Kelso. Tengo mi sangre de giros, ahí me la regalaron, nunca me dijeron qué giro era, que no anduviera investigando, que le sacara, era un giro muy bueno, la verdad. Y últimamente tengo una sangre de negro que me regalaron, está súper, súper, súper buena. Les digo mis Bombis Plus. Son con los que voy a jugar México-Estados Unidos en Arandas, Jalisco. Quinta Gumoria va a entrar con puros Bombis Plus.
Nice. So he said that he wanted to point out that his sweaters are a three-way cross from sweaters from Dink, George Neal, and Carol Neesmith. He wants to point that out. And that's what he was going crazy for a little bit, but it worked out. You know, he also wants to mention that He has some Kelsos from Cantrell Kelsos, he says, and he says that they're very, very fast, and they're very game smart, and he enjoys them a lot because if the opponent is a little blemished, they won't just sit there. They will keep going and going and going.
Finishers.
They're finishers, absolutely. And he wants to point out that he does have some blue face that are just the gamest he's ever had, he believes. And he does cross those with his sweaters, and they add, the hybrid vigor that everyone expects from a blue face. Very good sweater cross, he says. And he says that he got some grays. No one, the person that gave it to him said, "Don't ask questions. Don't ask me what they are. They're grays, and that's it." And he was skeptical. He started working with them, and he loves them. He loves them. He's like, "I don't know what they are." Again, they told me not to ask any questions. Same with some blacks he inherited from a gentleman. And now, he loves the blacks so much that he named them, because he kind of added his own potion to them, and he named them the Gomez Plus.
Gomez Plus, huh?
Yeah, so they're blacks, and he's actually gonna say, he says that he'll be competing against it's a derby called Mexico versus USA.
Yes.
Arandas, Jalisco, great pit, beautiful pit, very great, great level there at that pit. And he says that all the chickens he's going to be showing there are all those Gomez Plus, which are all blacks.
Wow.
So he's very, very excited because he loves them.
Well, tell him we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about the stuff that he just shared. So just tell him to get prepared. We're going to spend a little bit of time.
Que le vamos a hacer unas preguntas más a fondo de todo lo que nos dice de sus líneas, porque es muy interesante.
Perfecto.
Okay, so let's start. What I'm excited about, and I'm sorry for smiling because he just completely abolished all the myths.
I know exactly where you're going. Go ahead, Jim.
Tranquilino, man, he did it, man. He did it. So what I want to talk about now is this his success that he has had with sweaters, also with the green legs aspect of the sweaters, and the neutralization of the ACLs with the sweaters. So the first part I want to talk about is the sweaters itself. Here in the States, you hear nothing but bad stuff about sweaters. They run, they not game, they no good, blah, 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 blah. If you got sweaters, you got trash. If you got sweaters, you're going to lose your money. Don't bet on a sweater. Now we got Tranquilino in his interview that's saying not only the sweater, but the green-legged aspect of the sweater has been birds that he has used to neutralize this trend of the ACL.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
That's a big deal, because he's literally, besides a couple other breeders in the States, literally the only person that I have heard say that they are very competitive with sweaters.
I'm glad he mentioned that.
I'm very glad that he mentioned that, because again, and we're talking about tier 1. Tranquilino is competing at the highest level in Mexico, and he just said that he's able to compete and win against a trend with birds that everybody else in the world said is no good. So my question is, what do he think? Oh, first of all, ask him, has he ever heard that? The bad stories about Swiss. So first ask him that first part of the question.
Señor Tranquilino, se estaba riendo Jim y también yo, porque estábamos escuchando y dijimos, ok, acaba de abrir un buen tema, Tranquilino, de que mucha gente ya ve que siempre hay modas en esto de los gallos, y quieren ciertos gallos, o no quieren ciertos gallos, y que últimamente estaban, pues ya ve que dicen los fueras no hacen nada, que los fueras no tienen casta, que son muy bonitos nada más, bla, bla, bla. No solamente eso, pero hay muchos mitos de que el suera que pata verde, o sea, hay mucha polémica sobre eso. Y no nada más nos acaba de decir que usted tiene estas líneas, pero que también le ha ido muy bien con estas líneas. Aparte de neutralizar los asiles, ¿no? ¿Usted ha escuchado esta polémica que los sueras ya no sirven, que todas esas historias, o en México, ahí con usted, nunca ha escuchado que la gente diga que ya los sueras no valen la pena?
Sí, mira, he escuchado mucho eso, que los sueres no sirven, que los sueres no rematan, que no son gallos buenos, que una cosa y otra. Pues lamentablemente es que mucha gente tiene puros nombres, no tiene el gallo que es suere en realidad, ¿sí? Mucha gente se va a buscar el gallo amarillo cola blanca y cualquier gente y es un suere y es un suere. Hay que saber ahí conocer el gallo suere, el que realmente es el gallo suere. Para mí es el gallo más fino, el gallo más completo. Nomás hay que saberlo manejar, es el gallo más trabajoso. Pero en cuanto entiendas un suéter, sepas manejar un suéter, vas a ver cómo te va a ir bien. Y pues mi suéter me ha funcionado muy bien en todos los ámbitos y todos mis sangres traen sangre de suéter. Ahora pues ya con esos nuevos suéteres que acabo de hacer, de formar la familia de los patas verdes, están mucho más completos todavía. Pero mi base son mis suéteres todo el tiempo.
Yeah, he says that he's heard it all. He's heard it all, and he says that, like every other line, has different opinions. He says they're just opinions, but if we're talking about sweaters only, he wants to make sure we focus on something. There's a lot of birds out there that are really not sweaters,
right?
Right. So he says, hey, a lot of these birds are not sweaters just because they're nice and blonde. They got yellow legs and white streamers, doesn't make them a sweater, and it doesn't mean they come from a great family. He says, he's fortunate enough to where he knows that they're sweaters, and yes, he agrees. They're very delicate birds. When you have a true sweater, they're delicate. They're not easy, to point out, and we'll get into that topic later. He's sure that they're not finishers. That they just kind of work in the air and then they kind of just stand around. And he's like, I don't have that problem. And when sweaters, became a trend, or they got very popular with good results, he says they were finishers. They flew high, yes, but they were spectacular on the ground, and they were very, very game. And he believes that that's what he has now. If he believes that he has sweaters, he also knows, okay, they're a little complicated to deal with, but the fact that he has some really good lines, that he believes he has good sweaters, he's able to just deal with what comes with having true sweaters, which they're a little delicate. They're not easy, but once you start knowing your lines, it becomes a little bit easier. And he just happens to have clicked in the green-legged side of it, and he's just happy to have those birds.
Right. And I'm glad that he not only sharing a sweater aspect, but he's also clarifying and making sure that individuals understand that all birds that is called sweaters and look like sweaters are not sweaters. That's number one. Number two is all sweater families are not created equal. And number three is you just kind of have to know on how to deal with sweaters when you do get a true sweater.
Sí, así es. Dice que entonces usted acaba de tocar en tres temas, pues dentro del suera, la polémica, que es muy, muy interesante, de que no todos los que parecen sueras son sueras. Este es uno. Dos, de que no todas las familias de suéter o de suera son igual. Y tercero, que ya cuando sabemos que tiene un suera, sabemos que pueden ser un poquito complicados, pero por lo menos ya se puede enfocar y decir, ok, hay que enfrentar a los obstáculos sí, los obstáculos que viene con tener un suera uno. Ya se puede enfocar más en tener una buena línea de suera.
Así es, sí, fíjate, la mayoría de la gente busca el suera, un gallo alto, bonito, delgadito. Mi suéter es lomos muy anchos, es muy poderoso. Y es lo que te digo, mucha gente, pues lamentablemente no tiene realmente el gallo suéter. Tiene un gallo amarillo con las blancas que les gustó y quisieron que les digan, la gente les gusta que les digan las líneas que ellos quieren. ¿Sí? Si tú le dices, simplemente llego, yo tengo un gallo, tengo mi gallo Kelso de Cantrell, es algo similar al suéter, también tiene colas blancas, es un gallo amarillo, pero patas blancas, sí, pero ese no es un suéter, es un Kelso. Pero mucha gente dirá qué bonito suéter, no es suéter, es un Kelso. Y es lo que pasa con mucha de la gente, es lo que pasa muchas veces, ¿no? Como dicen, agarran un gallo, dicen que es suéter, pero en realidad no saben cuál es la familia de un buen suéter.
He says that, yeah, he agrees. He says he just wants to reiterate. A lot of people just see a tall, lengthy bird, kind of slim, yellow bird, yellow legged with streamers, and it's automatically a sweater. And then since people want to hear that it's a sweater, then it just becomes a sweater, and it could easily be a Kelso. So a lot of people are just telling you what you want to hear. He says that his Kelso can easily be a sweater if you really wanted to, but the reality is it's not a sweater, it's a Kelso.
And I just want his opinion, just his thought, no name dropping or anything. But do he also feel, and I'll tell you personally, my personal feeling, I'm not saying he agree or disagree, but does he also feel that a lot of birds become whatever is popular, meaning that the Kelsos that look like sweaters are being sold as sweaters because that's what's being in high demand? Do he think that's kind of what clouded this whole, outpour of sweaters being, regard if it looks like a sweater, it is a sweater? Do he think the commercialization of the family is kind of what caused a lot of that?
¿Usted piensa que, sin obviamente decir nombres, usted piensa que hay gallos que se han vendido como sueras y no son sueras? Y cree que si la comercialización de lo que es el suera fue lo que a lo mejor les dio una mala fama en cierto aspecto.
Así es, efectivamente, toda la fama que le dieron los suéter, ya todo el mundo tenía suéter, ya todo el mundo gallo amarillo era un suéter, sin ser suéter, entonces lo que afectó mucho, y lamentablemente muchos vendedores en gallos en todo el mundo, yo pienso que es lo mismo, llega el comprador, yo quiero un suéter, pues nomás tienes un gallo amarillo, ya te lo venden como suéter, y eso es lo que ha pasado en México y en muchas partes. Está ahorita como el tema de los mentados, esos gallos asiles, ¿sí? Ya todos tienen plumer. Ah, caray, pues no creo que ese criador críe unos 20,000 gallos, ¿no? Para que toda la República tenga plumer. No sé cómo le hacemos. Es lo que pasó con el suéter. Y la gente que mantenemos líneas suéter, son líneas muy buenas, la verdad. Yo tengo desde el 2002 con la línea de sueros. Y no los dejo y siempre los voy a mantener, y con eso hago nuevas familias. Y hay que meter infusión de uno y de otro y viendo, pero tu base nunca la tienes que dejar.
Yeah, so he says yes, absolutely. He believes that, not just in Mexico but everywhere else in the world, he believes that people go out and say, "Hey, is that a sweater?" And people are like, "Oh, actually he is." And then they'll just sell it to you as a sweater, and it's really not. He says he points out that his sweaters are not thin. They're actually pretty thick, and they got wide backs.
Wow.
Which is very interesting.
Very interesting.
I only know a couple of people that have sweaters that are thick like that.
Right.
But it's good to hear. So he did say, for example, he says, right now with the ASIL craze in Mexico, he says that for example, it's the same story where people swear they have a ASIL plumber line, and he's like, hey guys, I mean, you're telling me that plumber is hatching out 20,000 ASILs? Like, how are they all plumbers now? Like
Got
clearly
you.
they're not, you know. So he says that happens. He believes that happens everywhere. And you know, he says that going back to the sweater, you know, he's had it since 2002. And they've been really good for him. And you know, he wouldn't trade him for anything. He says that he has 3 different lines which he infuses back and forth, but he looks for those with the same qualities, and he hasn't lost them. So he really hasn't. He believes that he has some very good sweater results.
So and then he said he does get the green legs, right?
Y su suera amigo dice que sí tienen patas verdes, ¿no? Los pollos o las pollas
Ya,
o los dos.
mande.
Los sueras tienen las patas verdes, ¿son los pollos o las pollas o los dos?
Ya lo hice una familia uniforme, pero de 2 años que nomás me salían las puras pollas, hasta que hice por ahí una infusión, del señor Jorge Vázquez, tiene suere patas verdes, y él me facilitó uno del suere patas verdes para adentrárselo y luego sacárselo y hacer así una familia uniforme que me salieran los pollos y las pollas en patas verdes. Esa línea me ha salido muy buena y los empecé a trabajar para atrás y me botaron otra vez los patas amarillas.
Yeah, so he says that yes, he gets he's actually he was able to create, you know, and hold on to the green legs. He says that for like 2 years he would only get green-legged pullets. So he was anxious to get, you know, green-legged stags, and he says he for 2 years he struggles with that. But a breeder, Jorge Vasquez, gave him a green-legged stag. And he says he's got great green-legged sweaters, and he infused it with his, and then he all of a sudden started getting like the majority of it, stags and pullets, green-legged, you know. And he says that obviously, you know, with time, you start, you know, bringing them back and bringing them a little tighter, and they also start coming yellow-legged. So, you know, that's just his experience, but he does have the green-legged line as a separate family.
Does he see a difference in a green-legged line and a yellow-legged line? Since they're pretty much coming from the same family, just selection process is different.
As far as show style?
Yes, show. Yes, characteristics is show.
Right. Dice que si usted ve la diferencia, si es pata amarilla o pata verde, el pollo, el gallo sweater, que si usted ve diferencia en el tipo de show.
Sí, mira, el suere pata amarilla es un gallo, es muy bueno, es muy liberal, pero el suere pata verde es más completo. Es un gallo más completo, un gallo menos arrebatado, un gallo más centrado, pero es un gallo súper poderoso.
He says that he does see it. They have obviously similarities. He says that the yellow-legged sweater is a little bit more wild. You know, he's just very aggressive, just, you know, forward. He's busy. And he says that the green-legged one, he believes that he's more complete. He's a little bit more poised, and he's a lot stronger.
Wow. Are they built the same?
Están los amarillos y las patas verdes, en suera, están igual. Ya ve que me dijo que estaban medios anchos de lomos. ¿Están igual o salen un poquito diferente de cuerpo?
Igual, si tú lo ves un suere pata verde y un suere pata amarillo que tengo, es el mismo gallo, nada más cambia el color, pero es el mismo, lomos anchos, espigado, muy alzado, muy bonito, muy compacto el gallo. Si los miras, el amarillo y el patas verdes los ves similar, nomás cambia el color, pero fenotípicamente es el mismo animal.
He says they're identical. He says, you know, they're very thick but compact at the same time. You know, they're mid to high station. You know, they're beautiful birds. They're identical. They feel the same. Everything's the same. The only thing is a difference is yellow leg versus green-legged, but everything else is the same exact thing.
Y lo que he notado diferencia el suere pata verde, ahora ya lo he cruzado, le he metido con giro, son mis masters, son gallos muy completos, y esos negros que voy a jugar en el México, Estados Unidos, me puse a juntar mis 4 sangres pie oscuro, que es el suéter patas verdes, mi giro, mi hatch y el negro que me regalaron en una sola. Y la verdad, algo muy especial de Quinta Gomarí.
He just wants to point out that he's using that sweater as he has a four-way cross, which is the green-legged sweater. He's using not the yellow-legged. He's using the green-legged sweater, which is hatches, with his grays and the blacks that he told us about.
Yes,
And that's how he just came up with this four-way cross. And he says they're spectacular, and he can't wait to show them. But their characteristics are black, and he can't wait to show them in the USA versus Mexico.
Wow. Well, he said something very interesting, and I don't know if people caught it. He said the sweaters are built the same. You know, the green legs and the yellow legs, they're built the same body structure and everything. But he said the green legs are stronger. So that's kind of telling me the strength is a genetic thing, not so much a confirmation thing, the way the body is built. Would he agree with that?
Dice que si usted dijo que están muy fuertes, ¿no? Los patas verde, por ejemplo. Pero usted piensa que entonces es genética o que salgan tan fuertes o conformación del gallo.
La conformación que trae a la mente, genéticamente están muy poderosos esos animales. La verdad, desde pollo se les ve.
He says that even at stags, they're just powerful. He says, obviously, he thinks that both things come to play. It's genetic, and then the conformation is spectacular. So that gives them that strength, and they're all uniform as far as bodies. You can see it when they're stags.
Right. That's very, very interesting. So
I want some of those now.
Yeah.
Ya quiero unos de esos, señor Tranquilino.
Well, I know his screen is freezing up too. I don't know if you see it as well.
¿Sí nos ve, verdad, señor Tranquilino?
He frozen up again.
He's frozen in my screen as well.
Oh, he got kicked out.
He's gonna. Yeah, he'll be back.
He'll come back. But let me go ahead.
Exactly what you did last time, and he'll be back.
Yeah, let me send that link just in case he needed again.
I'm glad he's touching on that point, though, right?
Yeah, man.
It's very interesting.
Yes, it's very interesting because again, this is the underlining stuff. You know, deep-seated questions that people are not paying attention to. The man just said their confirmation is the same. They're very uniform. They look the same. They got two different characteristics as far as their performance. The thing that really stuck out to me is they both built the same, but one is naturally more stronger than the other. The conditioning is the same. The keep is the same. The owner is the same. The facilities is the same. But then you have a bird over here that is naturally stronger. So it makes me think, you know, because you hear a lot of times, oh, you can't put no power in a bird. It comes from the brood pen, this and that. I guess maybe to a sense, that has some validity to it. Right. Because this bird here is naturally stronger with the same built, same facility, same breeder, same feed, same everything. And not just one of them are naturally more powerful. All of them with the green legs are naturally more powerful.
All of them across.
Yeah. So that is that's a very interesting. I sent that thing to him again, so hopefully he'll pop back in here. Yeah, this is a really we haven't even got. We still got a whole bunch more to go because that's only the first part of my question. The second part of my question is going to be the myth buster. All y'all guys out here following these trends, we're going to hear Tranquilino's opinion about these trends. Yeah. Then after you hear his opinion about these trends, I want you to go back to my lives and see, is this man talking to why? You'll see. Wait till you hear what he got to say. And hopefully it gives individuals out there the reassurance that you can be successful without following trends. That's my whole point of saying what I'm saying. That you can be successful in a sport without following trends. There's many individuals, and we all know them. We have probably all been a part of it, that we jump on the next thing that's winning because we all want to win. You know what I mean? Like we all want to win. So we jump on the next thing that's winning. And the smart guys out there saying, nah, I don't need to get a trend. I'm adjust my selection process like he did, and I'm gonna neutralize that trend. Don't those words sound familiar, guys, coming out of my mouth? I'm telling you. Hopefully he can get back in here. But Peter,
I'll say
translate that. Yeah, in Spanish.
Yeah, I'll say that in Spanish because there's Spanish speakers and I think it's very important. El señor Jim nos está, mientras se conecta el señor Tranquilino, está hablando de que es muy interesante de lo que está diciendo el señor Tranquilino, porque hay mucha gente que habla obviamente mal de los fueras, mal de nada más de esos, de muchas líneas, y quiere decir que salen del mismo huevo, de la misma gallina, mismos apareamientos, pero los pata verde salen más fuertes con el mismo cuerpo. No estamos hablando de un suera que esté más afilado cuando tienen las patas amarillas y los patas verdes son unos tanques. Los dos están igual, de los de Tranquilino estamos hablando, están igual de patas, de cuerpo, de todo, lomos, todo es igual, pero los patas verdes están mucho más fuertes. Entonces hay que ponernos a pensar lo que indica eso. Otra cosa es de que él se ha aferrado a sus líneas y mucha gente están ganando con ciertos gallos y queremos ir a comprar esos gallos o a empezar a sacar de esos pollos y ser igual. Y dice que esto a lo mejor puede ser un error para muchos porque no sabemos qué pasa detrás o qué llegó a ese éxito. Y aquí está un señor que él se está aferrando a sus líneas, él sabe lo que tiene y no está siguiendo lo que los demás tienen. Él está teniendo éxito con sus propios animales. Selección, muchas cosas que vamos a hablar y vamos a tocar temas, pero es muy, muy interesante. And Jim, I just kind of went a little bit further and you barely touched on it, and I'm sure we'll touch on it when Tranquilino's back. I said, he stuck to his guns and says, hey, I like my birds and I'm going to continue, selecting, right? And breeding towards what he wants, certain traits. And that's kind of what I kind of added to what you said. And, we can't wait to get into that conversation and see how he's become successful doing that.
Yes, and I think it's extremely important. And again, guys, this is the backstory to all the success that individuals usually are not interested in. People are not really listening or digging into the backstory to find out why this man is so successful. It ain't just keeps, it ain't feed, it's so much more. This man created a bird to neutralize what was winning in the market, in the industry for the last 7-8 years. I mean, probably 5 years. These ACL crosses have became extremely popular in the last 5 years. But that is the reason why it's important to hear the backstory, that he didn't shift, he didn't go out and buy, he didn't do any of that. He changed his selection process with the same families. So he knows what he's dealing with and just altered that selection process to neutralize the new threat. So understand that that's something that I encourage, because you're not starting over from zero. When you go out there and try to buy birds to neutralize the new threat, you're starting over. Now you got to learn that whole family of birds. You got to be able to start now trying to breed them consistently. You got to try to breed them with predictable characteristics. You're starting all over versus taking a family that you already have in your yard, adjust the selection process for the new threat, and you already know their disease resistance and all of that. Right. You already know all of that stuff already. Right. So Peter, share that.
Yeah. Now I'll add to that, and then I'll translate it too. Yes. I believe that to piggyback off what you said, we go out and buy these new fad birds, if you will,
right?
And by the time we perfect it and try to get to that level of what's winning, We're 5 years late, 7 years late to the
Yes.
party, fellas.
Yes.
Like that is something we have to pay attention to too. Like that's a big factor. We're late to the party.
Yep.
You know, and that person with those amazing birds or those fat birds, they might have already moved on from them or you know did something new. By the time you're playing catch up, you're never going to catch up. You know, if you just show up with your own beliefs and your own system and your own birds and you know your own selection, I think that would be a better result. And I'll translate now.
Yep. That's exactly right.
Sí, dice el señor Jim que es muy importante hablar de este tema porque ustedes están viendo que él no está diciendo, por ejemplo, los orientales en los últimos 5, 7, 8 años o están dominando y no sea, si es que tiene asiles, ha de tener muy pocos o no, pero él nunca se ha desviado de lo que le ha dado resultados a él. Él no está tratando de copiar un asil, no está tratando de copiar un plumber con penny, por ejemplo, que son muy populares, ¿no? Porque ya sabemos el equipo muy grande que los usa en México. Entonces, todos están tratando de meterse a crear o a sacar pollos de esos, pero no sabemos de que a ellos les tardaron muchos años para llegar a donde están. Entonces, si nosotros podemos sacar lo que está de moda, de aquí a que llegamos a hacerlos iguales que los de ellos, van a pasar 5 o 7 años y tal vez esos mismos animales que están de moda, a lo mejor ya los superaron, ya los cruzaron con algo más y ya ni siquiera van a ser, por ejemplo, penny con asil. A lo mejor ya esos los cruzan con otra raza como Kelso o Roundhead. I added a little bit and I said, you know, maybe once we reach, for example, I gave the Cascabeles, it has everyone going crazy with penny plumber cross. And he said, maybe we're gonna get to there in 5, 7 years and say, oh, we finally got them. But we don't even know if in 5, 7 years, Cascabeles themselves or whatever team is using that penny and the penny with plumber, and then they've added a little bit of sweater, whatever.
Right.
And then you're always gonna be always gonna be chasing that fad, and you're never gonna catch up.
That's right. That's exactly right. Peter, I don't know if you can.
You want me to get off and see what's going on with him?
Yeah, if you can get off and then just pop right back in, even if you're waiting for him to come back on, the quicker you get back in.
I got you. Yeah. Amigos, voy a salirme un ratito. Espérense, el señor Tranquilino ha de estar teniendo, a lo mejor se le descargó el teléfono, qué sé yo. Voy a salirme de la entrevista, voy a hablar por teléfono con Tranquilino y voy a ver qué está pasando y yo me meto ahorita, pero Tranquilino va a estar aquí con nosotros a la más brevedad posible ahorita. I'll be back, Jim. Let me try to figure it out. Thank you.
Okay. All right, guys. So don't go anywhere. Hang on. Don't go anywhere. Peter's right now, he's getting off so he can get Tranquilino back on. I think Tranquilino last night was having some Wi-Fi issues, and I think that's what we're experiencing now is some Wi-Fi issues on his end. So I can see them now. They're in the chat. So he's going to call him and maybe try to verbally walk him through it or find out, what's going on. Let me just tell him to call him if he can. Because if it takes too long, it's been, like I say, guys, this is again, we getting into the nuts and bolts, and I would hate to have to bring him back on. I really would like to kind of finish, but we had a long talk last night. We was probably on the phone. Okay, he's calling within the group. We'll see what happens. Yeah, Peter's trying to call him now. But yeah, guys, so like I say, just hold on. We're going to get Tranquilino back on, but he's sharing some really, really, really great information. And I know sometime individuals, thank you, Top Dog. I greatly appreciate that, brother. Thank you very much. It's extremely important, again, not to just look at the finish line or the guy that won the race or the guy that won the show and look at what he has and what he won with. if you don't know the backstory, that information is irrelevant. It puts you on this going down a rabbit hole where you start chasing families and breeds and crosses and wondering why, 4 or 5 years down the road, like Peter was saying, you're still not there because you don't really know the backstory. People are just chasing crosses. Oh, he won with the penny plumber. Okay, now I'm gonna go ahead and get some penny plumber. I know a guy that got good pennies. I know a guy that got good plumbers. Boom, I'm gonna buy them, and then wondering why in 5 years you're not even there, or you might just be getting there, and in 5 years down the road, everybody's using a totally different cross because they realize how to neutralize the penny plumber crosses. And that is the other aspect I want Tranquilino to talk about, is how he's been neutralizing those ACL crosses. And see, you don't hear many people talking about that. And I want him to share that. And he did it with birds that he already had. But like you say, a lot of birds out here are not what they are not what they're being sold as. They're not. And that is the reason why these type of interviews are important, because again, I know we all wants to hear, what he feed, what his pointing system is, how much table work you do he use fly pins? Guys, all that stuff is important, and I know it's all interesting. But you can get all the tools that you want. If you don't have the skill and ability, oh, here go Tranquilino right now. Okay, he's coming back.
Ok, ya está
Tranquilino.
Franco el teléfono.
Okay. Un momento. Peter is para aquí. He's coming now. Okay. I think Peter's going to be on here right now. Guys, I appreciate y'all guys hanging out while Tranquilino was coming back. We're going to get Peter back on here so we can continue this conversation. Guys, I know there's a lot of comments in the comment section. Please keep them coming. But a lot of the stuff that y'all guys are asking, we're going to really get through that throughout this conversation. You know what I mean? So don't think I'm ignoring the questions. I'm not ignoring the questions at all in the comment section. All righty.
We're back, guys. He had a little technical difficulties. He said his phone restarted itself for whatever reason.
Okay.
Así pasa, parece que se le reinició el teléfono o algo así, ¿verdad? Pero ya lo tenemos aquí
Sí,
para
bueno, ya los dos ya hicieron eso.
Perfecto.
Okay. So we're back. All right. So I guess what you and I talked about so much, but and I don't even remember where we kind of left off. Oh, we left off as far as the green legs and the sweaters having different characteristics, but they got the same body structure. Okay.
Correct.
That's what the last
crazy how you're so good at this, Jim.
Well, that's the last that. So let's talk about now. Let's talk about now his success with neutralizing this ACL cross trend. And what is his personal opinion about following trends?
Dice que ya hablamos obviamente usted hizo el comentario de que gracias a Dios le ha estado yendo muy bien con los suéteres patas verdes y que usted siente que ha podido neutralizar esta moda de las cruzas de asil, ¿no? ¿Y usted qué opina de las modas de gallos?
Mira, las modas llegan y se van, ¿sí? Pues lamentablemente la gente que quiere incursionar al gallo, lamentablemente el 70% se va sobre la moda. Sí, yo tengo mis sangres desde el 2002, como te lo mencionaba, sustentando a tiempo. Lamentablemente una moda llega porque X partido trae un tipo de gallo, le va a venir temporada, ¿sí? Ese año salió las cosas muy bien, ya todo el mundo se va sobre eso, ¿sí? Y al pasar un año, 2 años, ya te das cuenta pues que no, que era nada más una moda. Ahora era simplemente esos gallos, esas personas que tenían, no eran los que tú pensabas que eran esos gallos. Y para mí las modas llegan y se van. El suéter siempre ha existido, el high siempre ha existido. Ahorita está una tendencia sobre lo negro y sobre lo hash.
He says that, unfortunately, he believes that about 70% of people people just go with fads. And he says it's unfortunate because sometimes what happens is that big teams or a certain team out there does very, very well with a certain cross or certain birds, and people assume that they're going to go out there by the same birds,
Right.
and they're really not. And even if they say, well, just to use as an example, what these are sweater Kelso crosses or whatever they are, they go and they try to chase that fad, and he says that sometimes they're not even getting that. They're just once again they're just telling them, oh, it's this, and
That's
then they're
right.
not even getting the same birds. He
That's
says
right.
he believes people should just focus on what works for them
Right.
and stop chasing fads out there. And he says
Right.
it's unfortunate that happens. And he says that now there's a lot of people trying to slowly but surely there's going to be some blacks with hatch crosses, and that's what people are going to start showing. And he believes that that's the next trend that's about to come up.
So that trend that he's saying is coming up, does he see that trend coming up because they're able to neutralize the acyl crosses? That's part one of the question. The second part of the question is, what characteristics does he see that's needed to neutralize those crosses?
Dice que esta nueva moda que a lo mejor empezamos a ver, que son hatches con negros, ¿no? ¿Usted cree que estos se está haciendo moda porque están pudiendo neutralizar un poco a la SIL? Y la segunda
Así
parte
es.
¿qué cualidades ve usted que tienen para neutralizar a la SIL?
Su rapidez y su ser muy encimoso sobre él. El asil, para poder hacer su trabajo, debe tener su espacio. Y si les sueltas a un animal que no le dan espacio, el asil no tiene opción. Ese es lo que pasa. Y es lo que tiene mi suere pata verde. No te da tiempo, no te da opción. Está sobre ti, pero siempre el patas para adelante y la pega para atrás. Siempre todo el tiempo está trabajando así, pero sobre el gallo. Le pega al mono gallo. Y es lo que está pasando, esa tendencia. Lamentablemente, en muchos de los gallos que les gusta la pluma, seguimos, como dices tú, esa moda, ¿no? Y todos quieren ser igual a. Y yo no. Hay que buscar, contrarrestar ese tipo de juego, ese tipo de animal que está en el mercado o con el que está jugando. Porque si no, vamos a seguir siendo un segundo, un después de.
He says that he believes that we're gonna start seeing this trend because they're able to neutralize acyl crosses for the most part. And he says the characteristics that he believes are able to neutralize an acyl cross is birds that are just on top of them. They don't let them breathe. They don't let them turn. They don't give them any space. So he says that what he believes will neutralize an acyl is someone that's just busy bird on top of them, right? He says that acyls do have their characteristics, but acyls need space to move and swerve and just wait for that one shot. And he says that that's what he believes that his green-legged sweaters have always had. And on top of that, not only are they very busy birds towards the other bird, he says that a characteristic that he really likes about his sweaters in combination with the rest is that they stay very busy, they throw legs, but they always have their body and their face completely back.
So they like this.
They're here and their body is completely back, so they don't get hit very easily. And they stay busy, so that is what he believes. Speaking about what he's able to do with his sweaters and neutralize the acyls, he thinks that's what gets them gets the job done.
Wow, that right there, I'm glad he shared that, because everybody talks about the trend, but nobody ever explained what it took to neutralize the trend. And obviously, it had to come from somebody that has been neutralizing it. So busy, meaning that it's aggression and also speed, right? Aggression and speed. is what he sees the characteristics that neutralizes these ACLs?
Sí, cuando usted dice agresión a Tranquilino, ¿usted habla de velocidad y fuerza? ¿O una combinación o una de las dos cosas?
Es una combinación velocidad y fuerza al mismo tiempo, porque pueden ser un gallo muy veloz, pero no tienen fuerza. Es el gallo que no te hace heridas profundas, te hace rasguños nada más. Y el gallo que tiene velocidad, pero tiene fuerza, es el que te hace heridas muy profundas y muy rapidez.
Yeah, he says it's a combination of both. You need speed and power because he says that there's plenty of birds out there that are very, very fast. But unfortunately, what they're doing is they're just their blemishes are more like scratches, and you need power to go deep and
Go
get the
deep.
job done.
Right. Tell me, ask, what I'm sure when a trend came out, right? Was he initially losing to the trend when it first came out?
Una pregunta, cuando usted vio que empezaron a salir muchas cruzas de asil y empezaron a ganar los asiles, ¿usted al principio le batalló para neutralizar a los asiles o desde un principio les dio buena guerra?
Batallamos un poquito hasta que no buscamos, cambiamos nuestra forma de preparar los gallos, nuestra forma de enseñar al combate, ¿sí? De primero sí nos dieron buenas tundas porque nosotros mandábamos el gallo completamente a atacar y ya te lo agarraban mal parado. Yo le digo que el asil es un gallo oportunista. Está esperando la oportunidad que tu gallo caiga mal para herirlo y lo hieren muy fuerte. Entonces batallamos un año, 2 años y gracias a Dios ya le hallamos más o menos con qué contrarrestar. Se gana y se pierde, no, pero cuando tienes un 80% ganada sobre asiles, yo pienso que no ocupas un asil, ocupas un gallo fino.
Yeah, he says that absolutely. At first, he knows that he was struggling a little bit. He says that he had to, go back to the drawing board somewhat and say, okay, what are we doing wrong? We got the right birds, but what's going on? And he noticed that the ASILs are trying to catch your bird off guard. So you need to make sure that you teach your bird how to perform in a certain way, a certain style that will neutralize an ASIL, because he says that an ASIL is an opportunist. He says that ASIL is just waiting for your bird to make a mistake. Maybe they land awkwardly or in bad positioning, and that's when the ASIL strikes, and then you're very hurt. And then, fortunately and unfortunately, ASILs tend to do some very deep blemishes.
Right.
And he says that he believes that he just started going back to the drawing board, and it took him about 1.5 to 2 years to kind of get on top. And he says that he's got a winning rate of about 80% over ASIL crosses, which is never bad. He says obviously we can't win them all, but he says that he believes you just need a game bird. I mean, there's no way around it. He believes there's no way around it. There's no gimmicks. You have a bird that has the desire to win. Is all you need.
So tell me this: when he started to study, like, was he studying the fact of what was causing his losses? Like, did he go to the pits and watch other fights that ASIL to try to understand their characteristics? Or is it just that he just paid attention to his losses? Or was he also evaluating other people's losses with these ASILs to learn what they were good at?
Cuando usted dice que se fue a ver más bien o hacer ajustes para poder competir contra los asiles o gallos asilados, ¿usted los estudió en resultados que usted tenía en sus shows de usted, en sus peleas de usted, o también estando en el palenque observaba a los demás, o cuál fue su método de cómo llegó a la conclusión de ok, ya los estudié, ahora vamos a hacer esto. ¿Qué fue? ¿Estudiaba muchas peleas o nada más las de usted?
Es una pregunta muy buena. Yo pienso que esto nadie lo hace. Yo diario que voy a un evento grande como un intercontinental, diario me siento 1 hora a ver las peleas, a ver qué tipo de gallo en ese lugar, en ese clima, en esa altura están dominando, cómo, cómo perdió un asil, cómo ganaba un asil, y estando viendo los resultados míos y viendo varias peleas, poner atención en las peleas, cómo juega el gallo, cuál tipo de juego de gallo, de qué forma es como perdían más fácil. Y sobre eso fuimos trabajando hasta hacerlo, hasta hacerla. Ahorita no, ya no mandamos el gallo, esperamos a que el asil primero ataque y enseñar a tu gallo que lo enseñe a recibir.
Wow, interesante. He says that's a very good question, Jim, and he says that it was he used volume. So he used, for example, the Intercontinental. There's so much volume that he would go out and sit, for about an hour and observe what was going on, see what kind of birds were showing, what kind of birds were winning, what characteristics, what mistakes were made, and also he also observes, the climate, altitude, so many different factors that come into play. But mostly he believes that watching more volume of those same birds is what kind of got him to come to the conclusion. And his interesting conclusion is, we used to send our birds out to attack an ASIL, and now we want the ASIL to come attack us first, because that's when that ASIL is at a disadvantage. If we go attack, we're at a disadvantage. So we wait for the ASIL to attack. He's not as fast, he's not as sharp. So once that ASIL makes that first mistake, he's not going to end well.
He's not going to end well. Exactly.
Very interesting.
Okay.
Very interesting.
Hey, listen, this is, like I say, these are the underlining questions that are important, not just these wins. So this is my next one. His method in creating something to neutralize the trend, the ASIL crosses, right? Was that a result of his selection process or what went into the brood pen, or his methods of sparring as far as teaching the roosters different approaches, or a combination?
Great question. Señor Tranquilino dice que cuando usted fue haciendo y modificando sus gallos en estilo de show, usted los empezó a hacer ajustes en sus cruzas, empezó a hacer ajustes con sementales y sus gallinas en lo que era la crianza, sus cruzas, o simplemente ajustó en sus topas, o fue una combinación de las dos.
Efectivamente, hicimos ajustes en la forma de topar el gallo. Sí, eso era nada más lo que hicimos en la forma de topar el gallo. Ahora, para poder vencer un asil, debes tú de encontrar un gallo que tenga 3 años de edad. Con un gallo de 3 años bien preparado, enseñándolo a recibir a su oponente, es muy difícil que un gallo asil te gane, ¿sí? Porque el gallo asil tiene una patada tremenda, muy fuerte, ¿sí? Entonces, cuando tienes un gallo de 3 años, es un gallo más macizo, más duro y más centrado, comete menos errores. Entonces, es uno de mis secretos, por ahí decirlo. Cuando vas contra asiles, trata de contrastarlos con gallos de 3 años, y en las topas enseñarlos a que enseñen a recibir a su oponente. Que ellos no propongan el combate, que esperen que lo proponga el contrario para poderle dar, para que no cometa tantos errores.
He says that he simply adjusted his sparring methods. He said he slowly started teaching them to not start the show. Wait for the ASIL to come and try to provoke them. Wait for the ASIL not only to provoke them, but wait for the ASIL to strike first. The ASIL is not sharper, is not faster. We show the bird, that there is dangers out there, and he needs to swerve out of the way a little bit, and then go heavy, busy on them. And he also says that he thinks that what has put him over the top and all these methods and put in combination over, but what's put him over the top and a big highlight is he believes that you need a very game bird, American style bird, at 3-year-olds. He thinks that a 3-year-old cock is stronger. He's more poised. He's a little smarter. And the decision making, he's not so aggressive. A stag doesn't really think; he just goes forward. And it's a little bit harder to deal with a stag to try to train him in a sparring, as far as in your sparring sessions. And a 3-year-old cock understands, and he seems to get it a little bit better. On top of that, they're stronger. They're sturdier. They can take a hit if they do get hit at 3 years old, and a stag is not going to do as well. And he does recognize, hey, ASOs, when they hit you, they hit you. They're very, very strong. They go deep, and you need something to kind of offset that.
So that's another little tip. You want something older and not as young because you need something more trainable and more durable. Wow. Okay. So guys, I think I went pretty deep into that, and I think Tranquilino shared a lot of the his inside perspective on that. Some of the key takeaways is the fact that he absorbed, he studied a lot in volume. He didn't have to, and I'm a little surprised, he didn't have to change or alter his selection process when it came to brood pins. He was able to accomplish it literally through sparring, and then his selection, he alters his selection as far as their ages. Ask him this question here. How did he know that he needed to use something older to neutralize the ACLs? Did he lose with younger ones, with 2-year-old ones, with bull stags? Did he lose with those and then started to see he was getting success out of the 3-year-old olds, 3-year-old cocks? Like, how did he come to that conclusion that he needed something at 3 years old and not at 18 months and 2 years old? Was it because of some losses?
Dice Jim que es muy interesante que el señor Tranquilino sabía que tenía sus gallos que eran buenos y él hizo sus ajustes a como él pudo observar que a lo mejor le iban a funcionar mejor, y que en las topas fue haciendo sus ajustes. Entonces dice Jim, sabiendo eso que nos dice Tranquilino, ¿qué fue lo que a usted le dijo? ¿Sabes qué? A los 3 años es lo ideal. Hubo ciertos bailes que perdió con gallos más jóvenes, de un poco más pollos de 1 año y medio, 2 años. ¿O qué fue lo que le dijo a usted? ¿Sabes qué? En 3 años es ideal. ¿Qué fue a dónde llegó a esta conclusión?
Mira, el animal de 1 año, 1 año y medio, 2 años es más liberal, es más rápido, ¿sí? Pero su golpe no son tan contundentes, y cuando él recibe es más blando de carne, ¿sí? De un buen golpe lo trozan. Entonces el golpe es duro, es seco, entonces te lo deja sin aire porque no tiene toda la madurez en su cuerpo como el otro más fuerte, y sus golpes no son tan exactos. Y un gallo de 3 años te aguanta más y sus golpes son más duros, son más letales, ¿sí? Son menos rápidos, pero son más contundentes. Entonces aguanta más castigo y responde mucho mejor que un gallo de 2 años. Entonces así es lo que tenemos que, es lo que miré. Un gallo de más edad te responde más, te aguanta más y te puede hacer la reacción más fácil que un gallo de 2 años. ¿Por qué? Porque pierde menos tiros y es más seguro con sus con su objetivo de él que tiene, que es el gallo, y es más resistente, tiene más fuerza.
He says that it was just, you know, he's describing it like he just knows birds and just experience, and he knows a couple things. He knows that a 3-year-old is a lot stronger. They resist a lot more. They're developed. And yes, he believes that a stag or a bull stag, 1-year-old, 2-year-olds, they're a lot faster. They're quicker. They're a little bit more agile than a 3-year-old cock. He recognizes that 100%. He says that's a fact. However, he feels that a 3-year-old cock resists more. He says he's got more power. He's a lot more poised, and most importantly, he's more efficient. He's more efficient, and if and when an ASO hits them very, very hard, and he says they cut deep and they hit hard, you know, they can respond and recover a lot better than what a stag would or a bull stag would.
So ask him, does he feel that way only pertaining to competing against the ASIL crosses, or is that his overall thought in competing at altogether across the board?
Dice que eso lo aplica solamente de jugar de 3 años, lo aplica solamente con cruzas de asiles contra asiles, o es en general que usted prefiere a gallos de 3 años.
En general, el gallo de 3 años es más eficaz y es más eficiente y es más ganador. Los partidos que juegan en primera división nunca te juegan gallo de 3 años, todos son de 3 años, de 3 años. Es más, ten su pubertad, ten su punto máximo en su edad adecuada para combatir, ¿sí? Ya está maduro completamente y es un gallo, pues, muy completo de 3 años. Lamentablemente muchos no nos los dejan, pero cuando te lo dejan los gallos y los juegas de 3 años, te das cuenta que hay mucha diferencia.
He says that that's just a general rule that he just applies. And reason being is, you know, they're just they win a lot more. They're efficient. They're a lot more efficient. And they're just a complete bird. He says that, you know, they're stronger. They're more poised. You know, they don't waste blows. You know, because he's a lot more mature. And the power is just on a different level. He also wants to point out for people to really observe is, if you look at any successful cocker, speaking in Mexico where it's legal, he says that they're showing 3-year-olds. It's very, very rare that someone's going to show, you know, a 2-year-old or whatever it is. He says 3-year-old is, people believe that it's optimum age in all senses. And he says that, unfortunately, we're not patient enough for whatever reason and different factors. We hardly ever wait till they turn 3 years old. He says, but I encourage everyone, because you will find out and you will see, if you're patient and you wait till that bird is 3 years old, for those that have shown in cocks at 3 years old, you will see a huge difference in your own birds, which is extremely interesting. Very interesting. Because it's true.
That's very, very interesting. Because guys pretty much brag about showing stags. You know, I can show my stag against cocks all day long, and he's like probably not in top tier. That's not really happening, huh?
Yeah, don Tranquilino, hay gente que dice que, bueno, hace mucho sentido, ¿no? Y hay mucha gente que escuchamos, yo mis pollos de 7, 8 meses los meto y me ganan, pero dice Jim, a lo mejor sí ganan, pero no con no con consistencia y no en competencia súper difícil. Don Tranquilino, ¿sí nos escucha? He's frozen in my screen, Jim.
Yeah, he frozen on my.
Oh, he left. It was getting so juicy.
I know.
We're gonna need a part 2.
We definitely gonna need a part 2, dude. Well, guys, don't worry about it. He'll be back.
Yeah.
He'll be back. Just give us a second. Um,
Son dificultades técnicas, amigos, no se desesperen, está el señor nomás teniendo, pues ya ven, él está en México, Jim está en Atlanta, right Jim, are you in Atlanta right now?
Uh-huh.
Y nosotros estamos de acá de este lado en el oeste del país, ¿no? Entonces hay internet, parece que ahí viene otra vez el señor Tranquilino, se salió, pero aquí vamos a estar, nomás tengan paciencia, comprendan que estamos todos por Wi-Fi, estamos en diferentes partes del mundo, los tres.
Right. He's trying to pop. It said that his device wasn't connected. He's like I say, he's just having a Wi-Fi issues and phone issues. But like I say, guys, y'all part of the whole deal. This is just a part of when you do live shows that you don't this same stuff go on pre-recorded shows, but you never get to see it because they edit all this stuff out. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
But this is just I still think the value of live shows will always be over a pre-recorded show. You know, that's just my opinion on it. But yeah, that was getting real juicy because you know, that's the kind of stuff that I like to hear, man. Oh, here he come. I think he's popping back in. There we go.
Ya, hay unos problemas por ahí en el...
Salud, Tranquilino.
Okay. Hey, I'm trying to, you know, my old brain here. I'm trying to remember where we left off.
The 3-year-olds, he believes they're a lot more efficient.
Right. 3 years he believes is a lot more efficient. Like I said, that top tier, he's not seeing people winning top tier derbies with stags.
Right. He was. We were asking him that question if he what his thoughts are. Right.
Right.
Don Tranquilino, entonces estamos viendo que mucha gente dice, no, pues yo enseño mis pollos y los meto a los shows de pollos y me ganan. Y dice Jim, bueno, a lo mejor sí ganan de vez en cuando de pollos y también hay que ver con qué competencia, o sea, hay muchos factores, ¿no?
Sí, completamente hay muchos factores, pero te voy a decir una de las cosas. Yo los pollos, no juego pollos, ya jugué pollos, pero la verdad, yo le tengo mucho amor al gallo, le tengo mucho respeto al pollo. Yo pienso que jugando pollo no estamos dándole un respeto a él. Sí, no estamos dando respeto, no le estamos dando su tiempo, no le estamos dando su madurez. ¿Por qué te digo esto? Yo me puse a pensar sentado viendo mis pollos animales. Duras todo un año queriendo hacer una cruz o no combinación a ver si te funciona. Duras todo el año, ya escoges cuál gallo con cuál gallina, sacas el producto, el huevo, lo incubas, lo ves nacer, lo ves crecer. Y a los 7 o 8 meses lo mandas a matar, lo mandas a jugar. Yo pienso que no le estás dando el respeto ni a él ni a ti mismo, porque nunca vas a saber si en realidad era un buen animal. Entonces, pollos, pues, la verdad, pues, no es recomendable.
He says that he agrees, you know, that there's a lot of factors, right? That yes, you can win a few stags here and there, but not consistently. And most importantly to him, it's respect. He says, you know, he respects the bird a whole lot. That's what brought him here in the first place and what got him here in the first place. He says we need to really observe what we're doing. You know, it takes us a whole year to plan it out. Then you know, you hatch them out, you see the eggs, you see them as baby chicks, you see them, you're caring for them, and then for you to throw it away in like 7, 8, 9 months because of your impatience and your lack of discipline. You know, he just feels that that's a lack of respect for the bird, because he believes that there's some birds that get thrown in there that could have been amazing birds if we gave them the opportunity to mature, and you know, be able to show it in a much different fashion.
Mm. Hmm. So I want to yeah, I agree 100%. I agree 100%. So what I want to do is I want to just talk just one more topic about the breeding, about his four-way crosses, these new blacks. I would like to just talk about his blacks a little bit. And then I will also like for him to share, if he will, different methods of teaching birds stuff during sparring sessions. You know, if he can share some concepts of how you can kind of teach birds different types of behaviors with sparring. So the first question is this blacks? What characteristic are these blacks showing him that is now already existent in the families that he's already competing with?
Amazing question, Jim. I love it. Dice Jim que quiere hablar de sus prietos que tiene. Y muy interesante la pregunta, muy buena la pregunta del señor Jim. ¿Qué características tienen los prietos de los que nos mencionaba? Parece que son los Gómez Plus, ¿no? ¿Qué
Sí, los Boomy
características?
Plus.
Ajá, ¿qué características tienen ellos que a lo mejor no vea esas características en sus otras líneas que tiene? ¿Qué los hace tan especial? ¿Qué los separa de sus otras líneas?
Sí, mira, lo que veo en esos animales son los animales que no van al choque. Y es algo muy difícil en un gallo negro. Estos mis
Wow.
gallos no van al choque, son muy cautelosos y donde te sueltan las patas te lo sueltan a matar. No andan a ver si van a pegarle o no pegarle. Te lo sueltan a matar hasta que te lo acaban el animal, pero no te tiran un tiro fuera del gallo. Es la diferencia que tengo a los otros, que son muy cautelosos y la verdad, para perder, para perder un Bombis Plus, ocupamos de que no tengan un segundo de vida. Si tienen segundo de vida, aguas, son un peligro.
Wow. Entonces tienen mucha casta también.
Demasiada, exagerada.
Wow. He says that as many of us may know, blackbirds are very aggressive. They go out after the bird and they try to eat them alive. And he says that his birds have all those characteristics. The only thing that they don't have, and that's what sets them apart from many or most blackbirds, is that they don't go out. They don't just shoot out and go after the bird. They're patient, the way he likes them to be patient. They're pretty smart, and he says that once the bird is near them, they're not going to waste any blows. They're dead accurate. He says that they you don't ever see them, just throwing feet off of anyone's body. They go, they hit, and they are finishers, 100%. 100% they're accurate. He says that if they hit you, they're doing that damage and you're done.
Wow.
On top of that, he really, really likes the fact that they can come from behind if there's any mistake made on their behalf. If they are blemished deeply, and he says that all they need is them to have a 1%, 2%, 5% of life, and they're gonna come back, and he says he's never seen anything like it, and they're special because their game. I asked them, so they do have, they're pretty game, you're saying, and he's like, extremely game. Never seen anything like it. Instantly from a
Wow.
black bird,
Wow. Did he stumble across this cross? Obviously, every cross is an experiment until you realize that it worked. But what made him even try it?
Los negros esos, los gallos prietos esos, usted, ¿por qué lo hizo? Si usted ya tiene tanto, buenos resultados. ¿Qué fue lo que hizo? Y dijo, ¿sabes qué? Voy a calarle con estos prietos. ¿Qué fue lo que lo llevó a calarle con prietos?
Lo que pasa es que estaba mi muchacho y yo viendo y estábamos sentados y estaba platicando y dije, mira, los suere pata verde son muy buenos con giro, están cruzados, muy gallones. Los negros están cruzados con los hatch y muy buenos. ¿Qué tal si hacemos una línea propia? Los juntamos los cuatro en uno solo, a ver a ver qué nos engendra cada familia, ¿no? Y la verdad me quedó sorprendido y por eso lo hice, esa ilusión de tener un gallo oscuro, un gallo fino, porque el gallo negro por lo regular es un gallo que lo cortan y cae y se baja o baja de ritmo. Y la verdad, hicimos una conjugación y el querer tener una línea propia, no una línea propia que hacerle en cuatro sangres en una sola y parece que vamos por buen camino. Es muy difícil y lo más difícil es mantener esa línea.
He says that he was just, you know, it was him and his son. They were, you know, at his farm, and they were just you know, just sitting down and talking chickens, and they were like, hey, look, our sweater gray crosses are awesome. You know, our hatches with certain with blacks, we like them. You know, what if we make a combination of these things, these possibilities, you know, that we dream all as cockers? And he's like, I've always liked the way a dark bird looks, but I've never really gone after dark birds because, you know, they have this people think that they're not game enough, and
Reputation, like the sweater thing.
the reputation, yeah, good
The
word.
reputation.
They have this reputation of them not being as game, or, you know, they can give it, but they can't take it at times. But as a cocker, I've always liked a dark bird, so we started, you know, talking, and we said, hey, let's try to make our own dark birds with these characteristics that we like. We made our own potion, and they're amazing. We like them a lot. And, you know, it's tough making creating your own family. And as a cocker, you always want to create your own family and make it a family and set it apart as your own family. And so far, we're doing good with them. But there's a lot of hard work behind making your own line.
Right. So has he always been the type of breeder that always have a little research and development project going on his farm? Like, is he always, even though he's successful and having great results, does he still feel the need to always have a little experiment going on to just see, you know, if he can get better than what he already has?
Usted, siempre, Tranquilino, sabemos que tiene buen éxito en lo que son los gallos, pero usted siempre tiene proyectos de cruzas que está experimentando en su gallera, o se enfoca simplemente en lo que ya tiene. ¿Cuál es el proceso de seguir avanzando? O sea, tiene diferentes cruzas con las que experimenta a veces, a ver si le pegan, y obviamente llevando lo que lo hace fuerte a usted.
Mira, lo principal es tener algo que te guste y unas líneas ganadoras. Seguir las unidades mismas, no puede estar cambiando, experimentando, metiendo, porque nunca vas a tener nada. Siempre tienes que saber qué es lo que tienes. Para entrar una línea nueva o un experimento nuevo a mi gallera, debe ser algo que aporte mucho mejor a lo mío. No puedo meter algo para que lo mío aporte a lo que viene de afuera. Sí, yo aquí mismo hago mis sementales, mismo hago mis cruzas con mis mismos animales que he tenido. En ocasiones he metido gallos nuevos que me han regalado de personas, pero son gallos que ya conozco y son gallos que me van a dar una mejora a mis gallos, ¿sí me entiendes? Cuando yo tenía mis suéteres, mis kelsos muy buenos, mis suéteres pata verdes muy buenos, pero no me gusta mezclar mucho. Siempre llevo una línea, si hago el conjunto de suere kelso, que sean parecidas homogénicamente y el tipo de pelea para que tengas un éxito en adelante. No puedes estar metiendo a cada rato, cambiando sementales o experimentado, porque te vas a ir en experimento, y no, nunca vas a llegar a tener algo. Tienes algo concreto, puedes hacer unos cambios, puedes meter unas cruzas, pero un cáliz que cada 3, 4 años a ver cómo van tus animales. Sí, pero lo mejor es tener una línea concreta y seguir con tu línea. Lamentable mucha gente se va sobre las modas, sobre los mitos, quieren ser como tal y siempre van a estar tras y va a ser un segundo. Entonces yo pienso que hay que ser auténtico, no hacer tus sangres y hacer lo que a ti te gusta.
He says that you know, we go back to you being able. You have to like what you have on in your farm. He says he loves what he has in his farm, right? He believes that he has got great percentages. So one of the things is you gotta like what you have, and they have to be winning. Period. There's no way around it. And he says that he doesn't really have a lot of experiments on his farm. He doesn't have a lot of research and development because he already knows his birds. He already knows his lines. So what he does is he just tries to maintain the lines that have made him successful. Always, you know, selection takes a big part of it, you know, but he chooses his brood cocks himself. You know, all the brood pens are chosen by him because he just knows his birds so well. He does say that sometimes he gets certain lines or birds from someone that he knows and he trusts, but it's only when he actually knows the birds. Like, okay, I know what they see. And even then, he has to say, well, I don't want my birds, my lines, to make that bird better. Because that's not something that's too efficient for him.
Right.
The bird that comes in needs to come in with greater qualities than his, not the other way around. He says, I'm not going to waste my time with someone else's birds or lines and saying, well, you know, I'm going to make them better with my birds. If they're going to be in my farm, they're going to come. I got to know the bird. They got to be winning. And I got to know, have to make sure that those birds are going to make my birds better. He's like, so we do go, you know, every, you know, 4 or 5 years. And we try to check what we're doing, try to see if we can tweak something. But for the most part, I keep it very, very consistent with what I already know. And he goes back to talking about the fads. And he says, you know, unfortunately, you know, people get impatient. They go with fads. They want an easy way to the winning circle. And it doesn't work that way. You will always be second if you're chasing a fad, is what he said.
That's a good point. That's a good point. You're always going to be playing catch up. So this is really, really good stuff. I mean, really, really good stuff. So now what I want to do, I want to shift over to the conditioning aspect and on 3 parts. How the birds are kept out on a farm before they go into the cock house. Some methods that he used in his keep and why he used those methods. And then the role that the mental aspect play within the keep as well. So the first part I would like to ask is, how does he keep his birds out on a farm? Does he have, you know, hens and pullets running around, and does he keep all his birds all at one place? You know, does he keep them in pens? Does he keep them in tie course? Like, what is his approach? Since that's a part of the program, what is his approach as far as the environment that he keeps the birds in prior to them even, you know, being raised before they coming into the cock house?
Sí, dice que quiere cambiar un poquito a entrar a un tema. ¿Cuál es su método, o más bien cómo tiene estructurada su granja? Tiene mezclado sus pollos, o sea, hay gallinas sueltas, hay pollas sueltas. ¿Cómo tiene sus instalaciones usted de su, no nada más su nave, pero su granja en general, de dónde tiene sus gallos, porque obviamente con eso vamos a entrar al tema de lo que es la psicología y todo del animal. Entonces quiere saber, está interesado saber cómo arregla todas sus jaulas y todo el ambiente que tiene en su gallera.
Ok, mira, primeramente nunca debe estar junto lo que es crianza y lo que es postura. Debe tener su lugar a cada uno y debe estar retirado. Sí, lo que es crianza lo tenemos en otro rancho. Los pollos se incuban y a los 15 días se sueltan al monte, libres, totalmente libres. Ahí la naturaleza se encarga de seleccionar cuál gallo sobrevive y cuál pollo no sobrevive. Sí, naturalmente. Acá en la gallera, en Quinta Gomari, donde es la postura, tenemos el albergue que es la cuarentena, donde vamos a recibir gallos. Sí, vamos a checar la cuarentena, que no tengan ningún problema, sí, para poder pasar al área de mantenimiento y de ahí ya pasan al área de prepostura y de postura ya salen al combate. Tenemos cuatro tipos de naves, cuatro tipos de, de relación, sí, de movimientos diferentes, porque gracias a Dios tenemos mucho trabajo y tenemos que jugar a veces 3, 4 veces por semana, entonces tenemos que tener instalaciones adecuadas para poder jugar cualquier día de la semana, ¿no? Pero nunca pueden estar revueltos los gallos, lo que es crianza con lo que es postura. Debe tener su lugar cada uno.
Okay. Yeah. So he says that first of all, he treats the breeding, raising completely different from
Battle
the maintenance, keep, and all that jazz for males only. He says that he has another ranch where he breeds and he raises, and he says that basically when they hatch out at 15 days, he puts them out on free range, and he says he doesn't baby them. He just it's just they're full on free range, and he lets nature take care of whatever nature's gonna do. He doesn't really stress about it because he wants strong birds. And he says that in his in Quinta Gomari is where he has all the males and ready for shows. He says that if and when he gets birds from other teams, he says that he has a quarantine section where he watches them. He makes sure that they're nice and healthy. They're under quarantine, and then he has after they're in quarantine, he takes them out to where they're gonna be in, whether they're in tie cords or pens, and that's where it's just maintenance. He has another section where it's pre-keep, and then he has 4 different sections. There's a big section where he gets into the keep.
Okay.
And then within that section, he's got 4 sections, and they have, whether they're scratching their big fly pens, whatever it is. So there's 4 different sections within that section of the keep. And he needs to make sure that they're always in rotation. They're always busy. And he figures that that's what works best for him, because if he compartmentalize, what's that word I'm trying to use?
Compartmentalize.
Yeah, everything. He says that that it becomes a lot easier for him as far as him preparing for shows. He's got different people coming in with their birds, and sometimes he's got to have different sets of groups of birds to show 3-4 times a week. So that just makes it a lot easier, and he can organize himself a lot better with his team to deliver, well-kept birds for the shows.
So basically, he has a whole system: quarantine, pre-keep, maintenance, rotation, and within a rotation, where you add in your rotation? Are you in a scratch aspect? The fly pin aspect. So it's almost like so it seems like he has it very systematic when it comes to the athletes. And then for the breeding aspect, he leaves that at a whole different farm, does a lot of nature selection, meaning that, nature or nature culling, but breeding, letting them free range it, letting them do their thing there. So the interesting part is he got two different. He don't keep athletes with breeding material, right?
Sí, dice que entonces usted tiene, tiene su nave de postura, pero dentro de esa nave tiene 4 secciones, dependiendo en qué etapa vayan de su cuida o su sistema de usted, es como va moviendo las aves, ¿verdad? Aparte de eso, de que usted trata de decir, esto es para crianza, esta granja es para crianza y esta otra granja es estrictamente para mantenimiento, para postura, tiene su nave y listos para el show, ¿no? Porque uno lo trata como para crianza y los otros los trata como los atletas que son las aves, ¿no?
Efectivamente, así es como tenemos toda la granja por separado. Una es para la crianza, para todo el pollo, y otra granja es para lo que es pura postura, cuando debe estar un atleta de alto rendimiento.
He says that yes, absolutely. So he lets nature take care of one side of it, and it's a completely separate ranch. They're not close by. And he says that the athletes, he says, because that's what they are. They're true athletes. And those athletes need attention like the athletes they are.
So ask him as far as the way that he keeps him. Uh, does he keep him in pens? Does he got a tie courtyard? What is his method as far as, keeping the athletes?
Cuando ustedes estamos hablando de Granja Gomari, donde tiene todos los gallos, ¿no? En postura, en mantenimiento, todo eso. ¿Cómo los tienen jaulas, voladeros? ¿Los tiene, cómo los tienen tipis? ¿Qué sistema usa?
Tengo los dos sistemas, tengo las jaulas, los voladeros y tengo cuerdas. Sí, tengo un tipo de jaulas que son de 3x2, tengo otro tipo de jaulas que es de 1,5x2 y tengo las cuerdas que son de 2 metros de radio.
He says he's got 2 sections, and one of them is he's got fly pens and he's got tie cords. He's got fly pens that measure approximately 3 meters by 2 meters.
Okay.
And he's also got other fly pens that are 1.5 meter wide by 2 meters deep. And he's got tie cords that are about 6.5 feet, which is approximately 2 meters or something.
Okay. Ask him in his fly pins, what type of bedding does he have in there and how high is his perch?
En los voladeros, ¿qué tipo de tierra usa? Y qué tan alto está la percha del gallo.
Mira, los voladeros por regular yo los traigo de arena, viruta, lo que deja de madera, cáscara de madera, y me están trayendo un molido de coco, sí, fibra de coco molida. Esa es la cama que tienen mis galleras en mis naves, y el palo, la percha, la tienen unas a 1 metro y otras a 1,5 metros. No puede ser más alto.
He says that he's got a mixture of soil. He's got sand, and he's got a coconut fiber that they're bringing them from another location. They're just it's coconut, and they are it's like a coconut mulch type of style. He also has like a wood chips or a mulch of certain trees or whatever, just local grown trees. But it's sandy with those fibers. It's nice and fluffy for them. He says that the perches are a meter high, and then another one is 1.5 meters high.
So
And
about
he says
3
that they
feet
shouldn't be
to about
over a
5
meter and
feet.
a half higher than that. That's the highest he ever does.
Okay, so between about 3 to 5 feet is what he has, because a meter is almost 3 feet, right?
Feet. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Meters are
yeah. A
like
yard and a meter is
3.2 or something
almost
like
the same.
that.
Right, right. So 3 to 5 feet. Okay. All righty. One other question too, and I seen it in the comment section. At what age does he bring the athletes from the breeding grounds, breeding facility, over to I would call it a training camp. Let's call it training camp. When does he bring the birds over from the breeding facility over to the training camp?
¿A qué edad o cuándo es cuando usted toma la decisión de traerse los pollos ya a Granja Romari?
Tengo una sección y me lo levanto hasta que tienen los 7, 8 meses, es cuando levantamos el pollo, porque traemos puro pollo suelto, no traemos ninguna hembra con ellos, puro pollo macho suelto, y hasta los 6, 7 meses empezamos a levantar y lo llevamos a otra sección, aquí en Quinta Gomari, que está muy aparte de lo que es la postura, y ya cuando viene el cambio de pluma es donde ya los arrimamos ahora sí a Quinta Gomari.
Y dentro de esta sección, la sección que dice donde andan todos los pollos sueltos, ¿es en el otro rancho?
Es en otro rancho, está muy diferente, muy aparte.
Entonces, a los 15 días que usted dice, suelta pollos y pollas separados.
Sí, las pollas nada más, todo lo que es especialmente para la cría, para producir, solo que dejamos, lo demás se sacrifica el día que nacen, se sexan y se sacrifica toda la polla que no va a servir, pero nunca lo soltamos juntos, porque si sueltas el pollo con la polla junto, el pollo se abre más pronto y tienes que levantar más pronto y no alcanza a hacer su desarrollo al máximo como debe de ser.
Interesting. So he says he has sections. So an interesting point is earlier he told us that he releases them into free range at 15 days.
Right.
And he says that by then he sexes them at birth.
Oh.
So by then, by 15 days, he already has a selection what's gonna be cold and as far as females, and what he's gonna reserve for to save them for the brood pens later on as they develop. Once he makes those markings or those calls and say, okay, this is good enough, and most females are cold. He says that he releases at 15 days. He releases nothing but stags. So they're all boys, right? They're all males, and he says that he does that because he believes that when you free range with females, that the males mature a lot faster, and he feels like since they mature a lot faster, they're around females, they don't get the opportunity to get those extra couple months or weeks to fully develop because they're so busy trying to accommodate the females or whatever. So that's why he does that. So he says around 8 months he then puts them over to his another section in Quinta Gomari, which is the camp. And then he lets them mature a little bit there. He has them under observation, and then once he thinks they're ready, then he transfers them over to the maintenance camp.
Wow. That is so his whole thing is systematic, and there's a method behind everything that he's doing. Not raising the stags with females, sexing them all at birth, only releasing stags and not stags and pullets. Wow. Tell me this. Ask him what is his approach or his concept when it comes to raising like stags and pins. As far as the environment, does he feel the environment plays a huge role into the success of the bird? And if so, what does he do? Like, does he keep birds in cages close together, far apart, with separation between them? Can they see each other? Can they not see each other? Those type of things. What is his approach to that?
Cuando usted ya recoge sus pollos y los pone en jaulas y eso, ¿qué es su método? ¿Cuál es su sistema? ¿Los mete en jaulas pequeñas? ¿Son voladeros? ¿Están tapados? ¿Están cerca? ¿Hay divisiones? ¿Se ven uno al otro? ¿Qué qué son sus métodos y cuál es su sistema y la idea atrás de su sistema?
Mira, cuando levantan los pollos los ponemos la primera semana, los ponemos en jaulas de 1 por 1.5, pero completamente abierta, o sea, se ve uno con otro, su distancia para que no se topen, pero todas, no hay ninguna pared, no hay nada. Lo que quiero hacer eso es que mentalmente el animal se sienta cómodo, se sienta dueño de sí, se sueña con seguridad en él mismo, ¿sí? ¿Sí? Porque un animal que mentalmente no está al 100% nunca te va a rendir. Entonces, desde el principio, que el pollo esté cómodo, que mentalmente está al 100. ¿Cómo vamos a mantener un pollo mentalmente al 100? Sin estrés. Sí, ¿qué pasa cuando un bebé lo pones en un cuarto chico? Se siente, él quiere salirse. Sí, quiere estar libre. Entonces, imagínate, viene de una libertad y lo metes a un cautiverio donde no mira, nomás te mira a ti o mira lejos, ese estrés para él es donde empieza a enfermarse, empieza a no comer y muchas cosas y para su desarrollo. Entonces, cuando nosotros levantamos los pollos, está completamente abierto, se ve todo, se ven unos con otros sin problema y así mentalmente están agarrando ellos autoestima y seguridad en sí mismo.
So he says that when he picks them up and he puts them in pens, they're usually about a meter by a meter and a half. And he says that he tries to mimic nature as much as he can. There's no dividers. They're open. They're separated from one another, and he does this because he doesn't want the bird to stress out. He doesn't want the bird. He says, hey, we just brought him. He had nothing but space. He was free ranging. He survived for months, and now we're gonna put him in pens. We at least have to let him know, hey, you're still the king. You're still, we need to make sure that he feels confident. And he says, well, this is not too bad. So he doesn't want the bird to not be able to see. They all can see each other. It's open space within a pen. Right, the pens are not small by any stretch, and he says that he believes that once the bird comes from a free range and then you lock him up, he can't see. He's he's strange to even the turf. He says that's when stress comes, illnesses come.
Right.
At times they stop eating, their development stops a little bit, and he says that's never good. He gave an example. It's like a baby, if you lock up a baby in a small little room, that baby's going to whine and they're going to want to get out. And, they kind of start, getting fussy. Same thing with birds. He wants to make sure that he says, yes, I know you're trapped, but you're in good conditions. You're eating, you're not stressed. And on top of that, he wants the bird to be confident. He doesn't want the bird to be scared or anything like that. He wants a confident bird, and that's when he starts the mental aspect of the bird. And he says that mental health in his birds are number one.
Wow. So that's going to lead us into the next aspect that I wanted to get to that. Just wanted just a little bit more on the conditioning aspect, because the mental aspect, I think, is extremely important and the most misunderstood out of all the topics when it comes to, game foul and game foul conditioning. I think the mental aspect is the most misunderstood, and very few people know how to implement it.
Sí, dice que quiere entrar también eso que hace mención de la mentalidad del gallo, de que mucha gente lo ignora, lo que es la mentalidad y no le
Ujú.
da la importancia
Ujú.
que requiere un gallo, la mentalidad, como usted dice, que lo hace un gallo mentalmente fuerte y también hace que como atleta crezca con una confianza y seguro de sí mismo increíble.
Ujú.
Entonces, quiere entrar a esa conversación porque cree que hay mucha gente que no le da la importancia que se merece ese tema.
Sí, mira, el gallo lo primero que tenemos que prepararlo es prepararlo mentalmente, que esté al 100 para empezar a entrar a una postura. En la prepostura es lo que tratamos de hacer aquí en Quinta Gomari, que el gallo lo mentalizamos al 100%, que esté seguro de sí mismo y él esté contento. Sí, mentalmente no le tiene miedo a nadie, mentalmente él es el número uno, él es el que manda, él es el que rige. Sí, en cuanto tu gallo está mentalmente bien, entra a postura y va a trabajar en una chulada. Mentalmente, trabajado, es un gallo que nunca te va a dejar de comer, va a trabajar porque le va a gustar, porque no tiene miedo, no está cohibido, ¿sí? No se siente amenazado más que nada.
Yeah, so he says that yes, it's very important, and
Ujú.
he says that for his pre-keep,
Ujú.
mental health, mental conditioning is
Ujú.
number one. That's what his pre-keep uh, entails. He
Mm.
says that he wants the bird to be confident, forever confident.
Ujú.
He wants that bird to go into the actual keep very
Ujú.
confident,
Ujú.
very sure of himself. He wants him to know you're the boss and I'm
Ujú.
just here to help you. He says when a bird is in that mental state, they
Ujú.
just eat better. They're in the better mood. Then, and most importantly, he doesn't want the bird to feel threatened, any threat, because any threat to him being not the boss, any
Right.
threat, physical threat, he
Ujú.
wants the bird to be happy when he goes into the keep. So his
Mhm.
pre-keep is mostly
Mental preparation.
mental preparation, mental
Right.
conditioning for the
Right.
birds.
Right. That's key. That is key because many people just talk about a pre-keep as stripping gut fat and getting them used to their diet. He like, yeah, we can do that, but the most important aspect is putting him in an environment that he can build confidence, feel comfortable, and be happy. Correct?
Entonces dice, muchos estamos obsesionados con decir, ok, vamos a entrar a la prepostura y viene un poquito gordo, hay que bajarlo de peso, hay que sea una fiera ya. Y no le damos la importancia que usted acaba de mencionar, que él esté
Mm.
mentalmente preparado para el entorno al que va a entrar pronto, ¿no?
Sí, fíjate, simplemente un ejemplo. Tú al niño lo mentalizas, ¿sabes qué, mi hijo? Ya vas a ir a la escuela, tu primer de clase, va a tener amigos, vas a aprender, vas a hacer esto, va a hacer esto. Lo enseña, lo están mentalizando que ya va a ir a la escuela. Ese niño va a llegar a la escuela y ya sabe que, caray, voy a hacer amigos, tengo que estar aquí. Pero en cambio, te lo llevas de un día para otro, vas a la escuela, queda llorando si quiere estar contigo. Simplemente ponte en el lugar del gallo, ponte en la situación, piensa, conéctate con él y el sentido común te lleva a muchas cosas.
He
Mm.
says that's absolutely right. And he gives
Mhm.
a great example. He says, hey, guys, it's simple, right? But
Mhm.
if you don't think it's simple, let me simplify it for you.
Mhm.
You take your child,
Mhm.
whether it's your daughter or your son, and you
Mhm.
say, hey, you're gonna start school soon.
Mhm.
You're gonna start school soon. So what
Mhm.
do? I hope everyone is preparing that kid and saying positive things about school. You're
Mhm.
mentally preparing the kid.
Mhm.
Hey, you're gonna go to school. You're gonna meet friends. You're
Mhm.
gonna have tons of fun. Tons of great activities.
Mhm.
So that when you do take that kid or your kid to his first day of school,
Mhm.
that kid is gonna say, "Hey, I'm finally here. I feel
Mhm.
confident. I'm
Mhm.
okay."
Mhm.
But if you don't do that, what's the kid gonna do? He's gonna stress out. He's gonna cry. He's gonna want to come with you. He's not gonna want to stay there. Same
Mhm.
thing with the bird. He
Mm.
says, guys, it's pretty simple. It's
Mhm.
common sense.
Mhm.
And I just want to point that out because it's that simple. You have
Mhm.
to become a bird. You have to try to think like a bird, and you have to be one with the bird. If you don't know him, if you're not if you're not paying attention to his needs, if you're not putting yourself in his shoes, then you're not going to do much. But it's pretty simple. Just think like a bird. Think, hey, I'm going to go into, a strange environment. Routine's going to change a little. What would you like? You would want to feel confident. So give that to your bird, and you're off to a great start.
Okay. So since we're talking about the mental aspect, ask him. Obviously, the environment plays a huge role. Ask him, what is the effects of having, say, a overcrowded yard, like just having way too many birds, even though they're getting good feed and they're getting good water, but you just have way too many birds in a small area. And what I mean by small is, regardless of what it is, I'm just saying birds too confined, like too much. Do he think that has a negative effect on their mental aspect, to have just way too much going on in the environment of where they're kept?
Dice que hablando de la mentalidad y más bien ambiente, entrando en ese tema, ¿usted cree que cuando los gallos están en espacios reducidos o que haya un caos, ¿no? De que hay muchísimos, una población muy grande en un espacio no muy grande, ¿qué efecto cree que tenga eso en un gallo cuando está muy apretado el ambiente?
Van a ser unos animales que no van a tener su desempeño. ¿Por qué? Porque está el estrés ahí presente todo el tiempo, ¿sí? No tienen movilidad, no tienen esa facilidad de sentir ese confort que debe tener el animal. Imagínate, 6, 7 meses lo tienes tú, que será 2 hectáreas, 3 hectáreas libre, y lo pones en un cautiverio de 60%, 80%, uno por uno todo el tiempo, y aparte lo tienes encerrado, le tienes pared, es un estrés completamente, y ese animal nunca va a funcionar al 100%. Tú lo ves que está bien, pero mentalmente él no está bien, él está un poco mal.
He says that he believes that they're going to stress, especially depending too on how they're raised. In this case, he free ranges. He's got 5-6 acres approximately, where they're free ranging up to 7-8 months, and then for him to take them into even if the pens are a little spacious, they're not that small, but if he's confined, you got walls, you got dividers, it's just too much chaos. So
Right. Got you.
he feels that bird is not going to be comfortable, and you might see him, oh, he's so nice, he's he's pretty, he looks happy, but many times they're stressed, and that's why they're a little over alert, and many times you see him and you're like, oh, the bird is fine, he's developing well, but mentally he believes that bird is lacking something.
Got you. Ask him, does his selection process, we know it starts at the hatching of the egg, but can he give us an example of when a bird got through the first phase of his selection process, made it over to the camp, but he's seen that mentally the bird couldn't come around, and he just had to remove that out of, I ain't gonna say the show, but remove him out of the program? Has he ever ran into that? Is his selection process ongoing all the way up until show day? From egg all the way up to show day?
Dice que la selección que usted tiene empieza, me imagino que obviamente desde el huevo, desde que están chicos, lo selecciona, usted después elimina, sacrifica muchas hembras, y dice que ha habido veces que usted dice, ok, este pollo ya tiene 7-8 meses, lo pasa a su granja Gomari, lo tiene en su voladero, y en el transcurso de cómo va pasando el tiempo, usted ha visto que hay ciertos individuos que no están bien mentalmente. ¿Ha pasado? Y si ha pasado, ¿cuál es la reacción? ¿Qué es lo que hace?
Sí, fíjate que se ha pasado y pienso que a cualquiera nos pasa, ¿no? Son individuos débiles que no soportan un cambio, se estresan fácilmente. ¿Qué es lo que pasa? Dejan de comer, luego empiezan a bajar de peso, se le vienen todas las enfermedades a ellos. Pero sí ha pasado muchas veces. Desde ahí viene la selección. Hay que desecharlo completamente. No hay que estar curando ese animal porque nunca te va a funcionar, nunca te va a rendir al 100. Sí, pero sí pasa en el puro cambio, en el puro cambio de un lugar, te están diciendo que ellos no están al 100%.
He says that absolutely it happens to him. You know, it happens to everyone. He says, you know, the first thing happens is they stress out, they stop eating a little bit, they lose weight, you know, and frankly, you know, the majority of the time they're a cool for me. Why? Because that just lets me know that he's not the right candidate to enter a high competition. Hey, I want strong, confident birds that are not going to stress. So if that's he's stressing out already, what's about to come is going to be a lot more stressful. So if and when I get birds like that at times, I just know that you know something's off. You know, and I have respect for birds, so I just eliminate him completely. You know.
Okay. Got you. Ask him. I want him to share two things. One about the bird hitting you, allowing the bird to hit, not allowing the bird to hit you, but also misreading the bird. He shared something with us yesterday about misreading the bird. Looking at a bird and saying he's, you know, rambunctious, he's up, he's active, he's crowing, he's doing all this, but that's not normally what he does. The average breeder would look at him and say, hey, that one is ready to go. What is his opinion on that?
Sí, vamos a tocar un tema, Tranquilino, que tocamos ayer entre los tres, ¿no? Y usted hizo un punto donde tocó un tema que dice que hay ciertos gallos que se portan serios, que son un poquito más tranquilos, y de repente el gallo parece una fiera, ¿no? O sea, lo ve cualquier persona y dice, wow, ese gallo está listo, está brioso, o sea, está listo para lo que es, ¿no? ¿Qué es su opinión? Porque la mayoría de personas es lo que queremos ver un gallo que anda paseándose, que anda para arriba y para abajo, que a la simple vista uno dice, wow, qué brioso gallo y se va a comer al contrario. ¿Qué es su opinión en cuanto a esos tipos de gallos?
Sí, mira, te comentaba ayer que a veces no sabemos entenderlos. Hay que entenderlos un poquito. Si tú tienes un gallo que es serio, lo de la postura, es un gallo calmado, él es así. Es la que vas a jugar, tú lo ves que anda brioso, anda rascando, anda buscando, y todos tenemos ese pensamiento o ese saber de que ese gallo, mira, ya quiere pelear, está listo, y estamos equivocados. El gallo está estresado, ese gallo está diferente a cuando actúa a diario. Tú debes de ser observador en tu postura, a ver, ese gallo es serio, ah, caray, ahora anda muy vivo, anda muy listo, ese gallo no está bien, ese gallo te está diciendo que no está bien, mentalmente no está bien ese gallo, porque ese gallo era todo el tiempo serio, porque está actuando diferente. Ahora te la voy a voltear. Un gallo alegre, un gallo activo, es la que vamos a jugar, lo vemos serio. Y en vez de ponerle atención, ¿qué es lo que hacemos? Hey, sácate, el gallo está muy serio, sácale un gallo. Le sacas un gallo, se le pones a un lado, su instinto es pelear, levanta gamorra, ya se compuso, te vas y lo metes a su jaula. ¿Y qué va a pasar cuando lo saques? Va a perder ese gallo. ¿Por qué? Porque no tenemos esa atención nosotros de observarlos a ellos, ¿sí?
Perfecto. So he says, guys, it's that's right. I did touch on that topic yesterday, and he says that he believes that we just need to observe a bird. Bottom line, we need to observe a bird because that does happen to all of us, right? It's in our nature that we want to see a bird that's alert, that's pacing back and forth, and we always tend to say, hey, that guy's ready. He's ready for action, and that's he's just ready, and
Right.
and we need to observe, and this is where we need to be connected to our birds. We need to know our birds, and we need to say, hey, that bird all year has been pretty serious. You know,
Right.
he's calm, he's poised.
Mhm.
You know, he crows. He's doesn't mean he's sad. He's
Mhm.
happy, but he's
Mhm.
just, you know, he's a lot more poised than
Mhm.
most birds.
Mhm.
Now, come, you know, show day, or, you know, when he's in the keep and we see that bird, you know, going crazy, pacing back and forth, making more noise than what he usually does. He's scratching. Most people are
Mhm.
gonna say, hey, again, he's ready. I can't wait to put him out there.
Right.
And that is a big mistake, because that bird is really telling you, hey, I'm just stressed. I'm not ready. I'm not feeling well. Do something. Help me. You know.
Mm.
And he says that a lot of times we make that mistake where we assume that a bird uh, goes from a serious, more poised bird to being
Mhm.
super alert, super hyper, and he's
Mhm.
ready. And that's wrong. We need to know the bird as an
Mhm.
individual. And then he
Mhm.
says, now let me flip it. There's birds that all year round they're alert, you know, they're scratching, they're
Mhm.
singing, they're just crowing, they're happy,
Mhm.
they're everywhere, right? They're
Mhm.
pacing back and forth constantly, you know, they eat well. They get happy just to see you.
Mhm.
And on show day, you see him, he's kind of serious, he's not himself.
Mhm.
And that's another
Sign.
that's another situation where we're like, okay, that's that that's not what he is.
Mhm.
He's like, now let's take it a step further.
Mhm.
When we see that bird,
Mhm.
that hyper bird or happy bird, and then
Mhm.
he's serious, we see that, we don't just stop there because we
Mhm.
know he's not right.
Mhm.
But we make a crucial mistake when we see a bird that way.
Mhm.
We see him serious, we say, hey, get him out, let's show him a bird. You
Mhm.
go, you show him a bird,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
You let him kind of peck at each other.
Mhm.
You know, you put him down, he kind of
Mhm.
throws a little feet,
Mhm.
and then we're like, hey, look, he threw some feet, he's mad, his head
Mhm.
goes up, he must be ready.
Mhm.
We got him, we got him ready. He just needed
Mhm.
to see another bird. And he says that is a big mistake because they're game
Mm.
birds. So naturally he's gonna throw feet. Naturally his head was gonna, you know, widen up, you know. So he says that is a massive mistake that we make. We think that if a bird's not feeling it, if he's feeling down and you show him another bird, okay, he's ready to go because he saw another bird and we saw him throw a couple feet or
Mhm.
a couple legs. And he says that that bird is not in good condition. If he's not acting like himself, you
Mhm.
have to really pay attention and reconsider your next move.
Wow. That is like I said, like I told him yesterday, that is a mistake that I have made. But it's because of the information that I have been getting fed. You know, hey, you know, if he's jumping all around, the bird's going to tell you when he's ready. The bird's going to tell you when he's ready. Take him when he's ready and not when you're ready. So I'm thinking, hey, when he's up, energetic, he's ready to rock and roll, he's ready. But what from Tranquilino is saying, if he doesn't act like that all the time, then he's telling you that he's not ready and he's under some stress. Hmm. Gotcha. So, guys, if y'all out there watching this, make sure y'all take heed to what Tranquilino just shared, because that is a very powerful point. And Peter, you need to translate that into Spanish.
Yeah, absolutely. Lo que está diciendo Jim es de que es algo, un dato muy, muy importante, un detalle, porque pues todos los galleros nos gusta un gallo brioso, ¿no? Y dice, bueno, este gallo es medio serio, ya está listo porque miren cómo
Mhm.
anda de brioso, se quiere hasta salir del voladero y, o sea, y eso es
Mhm.
un error que cometemos yo creo que muchos galleros, porque no lo habíamos visto de este otro ángulo que
Mhm.
Tranquilino nos está diciendo, hey, ese gallo no es así. Ese gallo es un poquito más serio, un poquito más controlado.
Mhm.
Él te está hablando, el gallo te está hablando y te está diciendo, hey, no me siento bien, sácame de aquí o hazme lo que sea, pero no estoy a gusto. Y hacemos siempre ese error como galleros por la casta que tenemos como galleros, ¿no? Que nos gusta ver un gallo brioso y machos y todo eso que viene con lo que es la gallística, ¿no?
Mhm.
Sí, sí, más que nada lo que pasa es que ya está el gallo desesperado, nomás nosotros no notamos que ese gallo está en fase de desesperación, que lo que hace, entra y se entrega, completamente se entrega a que lo maten, por eso el gallo no se sentía a gusto, pero a veces no tomamos en cuenta ese punto muy importante.
Yeah, he says we really have to pay attention because
Mm-hmm.
most of the time the type of bird where they're acting different, whether he is, you know, hyper and then he's calm, or whether
Right.
he's calm and then hyper. He
Mm-hmm.
says most of the time that bird is going to lose. Why? He's under stress.
Mm-hmm.
He's under a desperate state in his mind. And what is
Mm-hmm.
he gonna do? He's gonna go and he's gonna position himself. He's gonna receive blows,
Mm-hmm.
and you know you made a mistake, and most of the
Right.
time he's gonna lose.
Right. 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 That's why I wanted to drive that point home, because I think individuals are misreading their birds, just like I have been.
I
But
agree.
it's because I've been getting fed the wrong information. That's why context to these answers is so important. I know we're over 3 hours, so I want to just finish 2 other topics, and I'm gonna let Tranquilino go until we do part 2. I hope he'll agree to do part 2. Ask him.
Dice Tranquilino que ya sabe Jim que tenemos ya un poquito de 3 horas, que nomás va a entrar en dos diferentes temas más y ya lo va a dejar ir, y esperamos que nos acepte una parte 2 en un futuro para terminar bien la conversación.
Claro que sí, con todo gusto.
He says he'd be happy to, and no problem.
Okay, so I'm gonna close out with 2 things that I think is extremely important. One, the first one is, does he see a correlation in the success of some competitors with their relation with their birds? And I have asked Truman, a prior guest, the same question. Does he see a correlation in success rate with the individuals that deeply understand their birds versus individuals that don't particularly understand their birds, but they know how to feed, they know how to do this, they know how to do it, but they don't deeply understand their birds? Does he see a correlation in success and failure rates in those 2 different individuals?
Sí, usted quiere hacer una pregunta que se la hace a mucha gente porque cree que ese es un tema muy importante. ¿Usted ha visto, con su experiencia, usted ve, por ejemplo, una persona que tiene éxito en los gallos, que es más ganador que perdedor esa persona o ese partido? ¿Usted ve, observa que los que ganan más conocen mejor a sus gallos contra los que no ganan tanto y en verdad no conocen tanto a sus gallos? Que bien pueden, los que no conocen a sus gallos, bien pueden tener buenas instalaciones, pueden dar lo mejor de comida, pueden estar súper limpios, todo, pero realmente no comprenden los gallos. No estamos hablando de instalaciones, no estamos hablando de comida, no estamos hablando de nada más.
Sí, entiendo.
Estamos hablando de que si los comprenden los gallos o no. ¿Usted ve éxito y fracaso en esos aspectos?
Sí, mira, es muy notable y es muy marcado la diferencia cuando un pastor es ganador, siempre es la persona que está conectada y conoce sus gallos. Y el que no es ganador puede tener mejores gallos que el que es ganador, sí, pero no está conectado, se entiende. Hay gallos que te aguantan una postura de 15 días, no puedes darles más porque el gallo se estresa y ya no sirve. Hay gallos que tienes que darles 40 días de postura, tienes que entender al gallo. Hay gallos que soportan un viaje de 2 horas, hay gallos que soportan viajes de 10 horas, hay gallos que soportan un descanso en una nave, hay gallos que no la soportan, que tienes que descansar en los tipis. Ese es conocer y conectar al gallo. Y la gente más ganadora es la gente que conoce sus gallos, conoce ciertas líneas, ya tienes el sistema y el ver qué es lo que va a hacer, cómo va a funcionar. Eso es muy notable.
He says absolutely. You know, he says absolutely. He sees a connection, you know, with people that understand and are a lot more connected to their birds. They simply win more. They understand the bird more. They can They can cater to the bird's needs a lot better. He says that he sees a lot of cases where a person that doesn't know their bird that much, that person has better birds overall. His birds are elite birds, but that person doesn't really fully understand his birds. So he doesn't understand, hey, there's birds that do well with a 40-day keep. And then there's birds that you can't do more than 15 days.
Wow.
There's birds that do well when you rest them, and then there's some that get lost when you rest them. There's birds that can't travel more than 2 hours, and then there's birds that can travel 7-10 hours with no problem. And he says that there is a lot of cases again where the person has decent birds, they're not the best, but that person knows the birds so well that he makes those birds be elite birds.
Wow. That's right. Gotcha. I had to get that on a record. The last question, and then I can let him go so he can have dinner. The last question I have is, what is his belief when it comes to allowing a rooster to hit your boot, hit your hand? What is his belief when it comes to allowing a rooster to hit you?
Dice que la última pregunta, porque sabe que es tarde y a lo mejor hasta tiene que comer, no sabe, pero la última pregunta. ¿Cuál es su opinión? O cuál es, sí, su opinión, su punto de vista en un gallo que es bravo, que le pega al pastor, ¿qué es su opinión sobre gallos bravos? ¿Por qué son? ¿Qué pasa si le dejan, si se deja pegar o no se deja pegar? ¿Qué es su opinión sobre eso?
Mira, primeramente hay que ver cómo se hizo bravo, ¿sí? A veces el mal manejo lo estresa y lo hace bravo. Pero un gallo bravo puedes manejarlo y puedes amansarlo solamente que no te golpee, ¿sí? Cuando el gallo te tira, tú quítate, o sea, que no te golpee, no pelees con él, que no siente esa sensibilidad de que ella golpeó y lo vas a poder manejar y lo vas a amansar completamente, ¿sí? Como pastor, como manejador, lo empieza a manejar y lo haces manso, sí lo haces mansito, sí lo logras controlar, pero en el momento que se lo pasa a su soltador, él experimenta otras manos y se acuerda de cuando él golpeó, cuando él sació, ¿no? Ese gusto por golpearte es cuando se voltea otra vez al soltador y pasan muchos accidentes. Es cuando muchos te dicen, oye, pero ya era mansito, ya lo había manso por el mal. Y un gallo bravo que ya golpeó a la persona o te golpeó a ti, se te va a la cara, mejor elimínalo, cuídate a ti, cuida a tu gente, cuida a tu soltador y cuida a todo. Ese gallo nunca va a ganar, ¿sí? El gallo bravo muchas veces por el mal manejo, cuando la primera vez que lo agarras mentalmente, pues no está trabajado. Eso es lo más fundamental. Entonces el gallo está distorsionado, pues nunca vas a poder con él. De que le empieza a manejar, que no te golpee, que nunca te golpee, a manejarlo, hacerlo sentir que tú eres su amigo, que tú no eres su enemigo. Tú le vas a dar esa seguridad en sí mismo, ¿sí? Vas a trabajar con él mentalmente, que esté al 100, y que él sienta que tú no fuiste quien lo metió a su cautiverio, porque él te ve como un agresor, como su enemigo.
He says that first of all, we need to go back and analyze what made him, a little bit aggressive, what made him a little mean. There's so many different factors, right? He goes back to the mental state of the bird. Mainly, he says that if and when they turn a little mean and they start throwing legs at you or whatever, the key is to not let him get that satisfaction of him actually connecting and hitting you. Because once he connects and he hits you, he's going to be satisfied. It's going to feel good to him. It's going to give him a sense of releasing some stress that he's got or some anger, whatever issues he's got going. And he says, even then, by handling him and caring for him and you put him in the pre-keep,
Mhm.
you do you're handling him a lot more,
Mhm.
that bird is gonna come around, and he's gonna be okay.
Mhm.
But if that bird already felt that he hit you,
Mhm.
and you put in the pre-keep and the keep, and he's fine, he guarantees that the moment he gets a handler
Mhm.
or another person handling him,
Mhm.
that bird that already hit you is going to
Mhm.
say, okay, it's my time uh to be assertive again, and to establish me as dominant. And
Mhm.
that's when a lot of accidents can happen. So it's
Mm.
very important. You have to, again, be aware that the bird knows or thinks that, hey, you put me in this cage, you're my enemy, and we have to
Mhm.
tell them, no, we're friends, we're buddies.
Mm.
You're the king. I'm just
Mhm.
here to help you. And yeah, he says we really, really need to focus on handling him, and
Mhm.
making sure that we make him feel comfortable.
Got you. Because allowing him to hit you and get that satisfaction can literally be setting somebody up for a dangerous situation. Could be life-threatening situation later on down the road.
Señor Tranquilino, si nos escucha, está friseado en mi pantalla.
No, sí, sí lo escucho.
Ah, ok. Sí, entonces, ¿usted cree que si un gallo ha sido agresivo, lo doma un poquito y ya después lo lleva al palenque y eso, ah, regularmente puede volteársele a un soltador, a unas manos nuevas, ¿no? Es lo que está diciendo.
Así es, claro que sí. Es lo más frecuente que pasa. Sí, y al cuenta agarran un estrés, cambio de lugar, cambio de todo y casi por lo regular eso es lo que sucede.
Yeah, he says that he totally believes that,
Mhm.
once you think you fixed them, but
Mhm.
if he hasn't hit you
Mhm.
yet, he threw
Mhm.
he threw some feet at you or whatever,
Mhm.
and he didn't get the satisfaction. He says that you're gonna be fine, but for the
Mhm.
most part, but
Mhm.
once he actually connects and feels that satisfaction of connecting with you with
Mhm.
those hits, he
Mhm.
says that the moment you travel him, you got to understand, you're going to travel him, he's going to be in a different environment, you're going
Mhm.
to give him over to a handler at the
Mhm.
pit, there's
Mhm.
noise, there's lights,
Mhm.
he's going to go on defense mode, and he's going to say,
Mhm.
okay, what makes me feel good under stress?
Mm.
Oh, here comes a person, and that's when you can cause many
Yep.
accidents. And he also
Right.
said, guys, most of the time that bird is most likely going to lose. He's not all there. He's got some kind of stress, some kind of trauma happen,
Mhm.
and it happens to everyone. The most,
Got you.
if and when he's already connected, and
Mhm.
he's just just a little rebel,
Mhm.
he rather sacrifice him than to
Mhm.
sacrifice a human,
A
and
human.
have a tragedy happen.
Got you. Gotcha. I know I said last question, but he can make this short. Has he ever had a has he ever had a rooster that he couldn't overcome the aggressiveness towards a human?
La última, sé que dijo que eran dos preguntas, pero la última y nos vamos, señor Tranquilino, gracias. Y dice que no tiene que entrar en detalle, nomás quiere saber, ¿usted ha tenido en alguna ocasión algún gallo que usted en verdad no pueda arreglar, no pueda, por más de que lo trate bien y lo consienta, no da en sí el gallo? ¿Le ha pasado eso?
Sí, sí me ha pasado varias veces con gallos así que no, la verdad no. Dicen por ahí no tienen remedio y esos gallos mejor hay que desecharlos.
He says that absolutely it happens, and not just once.
Okay.
It's happened plenty of times.
Okay.
And if and when he meets those type of birds, unfortunately, he needs to eliminate them from the program
Got you.
and not run any risk, because most
Got you.
likely as he said, they're probably going to lose anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Got you. Okay. That is it. That's it for part one. The part two, I definitely will. We didn't get into much of the mental and condition, the techniques of the mental and conditioning and the techniques of his keep. So we'll leave that for part two. Um, but I thank him so much for the information that he came on and shared. He answered every single question in great detail, giving us a deep understanding of why he feel the way he feel, how he came up with the concepts. So I can't thank him enough for sharing that information. 3.5 hours. It was another banger.
Sí, Tranquilino dice que muchas gracias por compartir todo lo que nos compartió. Dice que tal vez para la parte 2 entremos más a detalle de cómo es su método de manejarlos del día a día. A ver si nos puede compartir un poquito más a detalle esos temas, pero dice que no tiene ni la menor idea de cuánto le agradece estar aquí acompañándonos esta noche. Sé que vamos para 3 horas y media casi. Tuvimos unos retrasos ahí con la tecnología, ¿no? Pero dice que le agradece muchísimo de compartir su tiempo y también su conocimiento.
No, muchas gracias a toda a la gente de la pluma. Estoy muy contento. Para mí es un halago, estar con ustedes. Me siento muy contento, me siento, ¿cómo le diré? No hay palabras, no, agradecido con la gente bonita, la gente de la pluma y estamos para servir y para ayudar a todos. Como te dije al principio, mucha gente cuando uno chico lo hace uno menos, lo hace sentir uno mal, pero hay que sacar casta, pero no hay que hacer uno se contesta arriba, no mires hacia los de abajo. Todos somos igual y hay que ayudar al que necesita la ayuda y echarle la mano, ¿no? Y siempre la humildad ante todo.
Yeah, he says that we're gonna do a part 2 whenever whenever we're ready, and he says that he wants you to know that it's an honor to be here. He thanks you for having him on his show.
Wow.
Mainly because it's a passion of his, sharing all this information. He says that for him it's very important for people to know that he's passionate about teaching the next generation. He also says that he remembers, he's here because he always remembers where he started. He knows what it felt like to not know all this information and all the humiliation and name calling and everything that comes with it when you're barely starting. And he feels for that people, and he has a certain compassion towards them, and he wants to help them at all costs.
Wow.
And he says, for him, it's very joyful for him to be able to share this information for people that want to listen. And again, he thanks everyone for being part of the show, for listening. And he says that one point that he wants to make clear and for people to take as advice is one day you're going to be at the top. When you're at the top, don't look down on people. We're all equal. We're all the same. Don't forget where you came from. And be humble. He says that he believes that his humbleness is taking him where he's at.
Wow. That's a very powerful way to close out this interview. That is it. Guys, y'all heard it all. Y'all heard it first here. This has probably been the longest interview Tranquilino has probably have ever done. 3.5 hours. But I would like to thank Peter as well. He's been hanging in there like a soldier. The translation is what make these interviews possible, bringing this information to y'all guys here in the States and also to the individuals down in Mexico too. So he's a huge part of the show. He's a huge part of making this possible. So guys, y'all give him a hand and thank him. Also, like we thank our guest Tranquilino. And until next time, guys, stay focused, stay positive, and stay blessed. And we will see y'all guys on the next episode. Buenas noches, Tranquilino.
Buenas noches a todos, señor Tranquilino. Buenas noches, se lo agradece. Y estamos hablando ahí por WhatsApp o algo para planear la segunda parte. Gracias a todos.
Gracias a todos y mucho gusto y que viva la pluma y el gallo que nos ha hecho posible que nos conozcamos, que nos enlacemos, que nos unamos como una familia.
He says, long live Gamefowl. And he wants us to always be united as cockers. And he can't express enough how proud he is to be part of this sport.
That is a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing. And we can, thank you very much. Gracias, mucho gracias. Buenas noches. And until next time, we'll see you very soon. Tranquilo Gomez. Y'all have a good evening.
Gracias, señor Tranquilino. Buenas noches.
Gracias. Buenas noches.
Adiós.
Okay, adios.